For those of you who are on the free conference call, so we've also got the free conference call in for those who can't stay on the line. I guess I could have put that in the banner before I started, right? We do have the free conference call link. Let me go ahead and grab that real quick. I'll put that as a banner that you can use. If you are listening on free conference call, which is we do try to make these meetings accessible via phone as well as streaming. I know everybody lately has been going to a Zoom or Facebook only, and I'm actually missing out on a lot of content and training that I paid for because the companies that I'm working with used to do audio, but now they're only doing Facebook or Zoom, and they're putting that in the portal. Well, nobody's making it into MP3s, so I can't download it. So when I'm going back and forth on these Texas roads, I'm not able to listen to it because it's a lot of streaming, and I'm going up and down these hills, losing signal all the time. It's just a hot mess. So I'm really trying to hold to that and provide that additional layer of value, right? So that's something that I'm trying to do. But let me go ahead and put this on here. Dial in at, there we go. Let me add that, and then I'm going to scroll that across the bottom. Wait, there we go. Oh, it doesn't need to scroll. It can just stay there. Wait, if I scroll it though, will it also put my name? My name's not even on there. Okay. I don't know what I did. That's okay. It's all right. It's all good. Okay, so I want to welcome everybody to our Building Wealth Together Saturday meeting. Now, in 2022, we are going to move these back to Thursday nights. When we were in person, in Virginia, and we started the group there. It's still got like 465 members in that meetup group. That group, we met Thursday nights. When I moved to Louisiana with a newborn and my husband in a different state and all the things, we did it every first Saturday. It was a wonderful, wonderful schedule. But I have seen that as everybody's gone online with Zoom and everything, and we're all kind of getting zoomed out, right? We're all getting burnt out of online, that the attendance on Saturdays is not as prolific as the attendance on Thursday nights. So instead of duplicating content, what I'm going to start doing in 2022 is we're going to move these classes over to Thursday nights. And so the first Thursday is still going to be the fireside chat where you get your money questions answered with style and grace. I like to think I'm going to speak that over my life until it's true, right? The second Thursday is going to be our Real Success Mentoring Group. Okay, so those are going to be topics for our Real Success Personal Growth Program. If you don't have a personal growth program, reach out to me about being included in the Real Success Mentoring Group. That is not available on my website because it is by application only, and I have to vet you and make sure that you're gonna gel well with the group. All right. The third Thursday, just like it used to be when we originally started Building Wealth Together, is going to be real estate and real estate topics. The fourth Thursday, we're going to be talking about the empowered technical leadership. And then the fifth Thursday is going to be Throwdown Thursday, where we talk about controversial money topics. So, kind of an expansion of the Juice with JJ podcast. And so, we may switch those last two. It depends on how much appetite we have. Because if we don't have as much appetite for the leadership content, then maybe we do that once a quarter and then do the controversial topics once a month. Okay. So if you have any inputs, if you have any suggestions for guest speakers, go ahead and do that because as we roll into 2022, we're going to be expanding and we're making things happen. All right. So I've got a couple more announcements before I get into my topics today. And for those of you just joining us, the topics today for our Building Wealth Together monthly meeting is Investments 101. And the topic for our DART method of real estate investing, which is my method of real estate investing without debt, is going to be commercial real estate investing. So commercial real estate 101. It's fantastic, fantastic class. If you can't make it, you're going to want to get the recording because I'm telling you, this is the game changer for a lot of us who didn't think that we could build wealth quickly and ethically. All right. So first thing though, before we get into those classes, I want to announce that we are doing, let me stop that one. I want to announce that starting in about 2 minutes. Oh, I'm a little late on teaching. Whoops. Starting in about 2 minutes is going to be the Erath County Veterans Bake Sale. They're going to be set up outside Walmart at Stephenville, and they're going to be outside both doors, from what I understand. And they're going to be selling the pies and the cakes and the goodies that you need to have a successful Thanksgiving. So if you're not a baker, you can do like I do. You can buy the goodies, right? Like I just buy the goodies. And speaking of buying the goodies, I'm sure she's not watching because she's got a really, I think she went home to take care of the arrangements for her late husband. But I want to give a shout out and a hug and ask you all to keep Chef Claudina Long in prayer. Her and her husband had Long Life Catering in Shreveport. They moved to Dallas, but when they were in Shreveport, they were some of the biggest supporters of my business. At least Chef David was, and he has passed away. And so she has traveled home and she is grieving. And I'm encouraging all of my audience to please surround her in prayer, that the comforter that is promised to us in the scripture, that precious Holy Spirit will just surround her with love and comfort and grace and strength. Because if you ever saw them in person, they were so in love. And to lose your partner like that so suddenly is just devastating. And so please do keep her in prayer. I think that she came to mind as I was talking because I always got my cookies from them, my Christmas cookies from them. And Chef David was actually one of the first people that encouraged me in Shreveport, because I had a hard time getting my business started in Shreveport, because in Shreveport, it's a smaller town. It's still a big town. It's a big city, but it's still a small enough town that people don't do business with you if they don't know you. And nobody knew me, and I didn't know that. Right. So, he was one of the very first people. I remember he came, he drove half an hour to come be on my show and help launch his business. And I was just like, wow, I really am making a difference. And so much love to the Long family, and our prayers and our support is with you. Our condolences are with you. And we really do wish you the best, that something beautiful, some beauty will rise from these ashes of today's pain. All right. So, back to the announcements. Is there's been a lot of loss this year, and I'm not going to go into it, but there's definitely been a lot of loss in the last 2 years, and we've got to make sure that we take care of ourselves, which is not what I was going to talk about today. And I'm not going to get started because I've definitely talked about it a lot. But if you need to talk, you can book a quick chat with me. You can go out to calendly.com/JJConway and book a quick chat, and we will talk about it, because I am here for you. All right. It's part of my ministry. Okay. So, announcement: Erath County bake sale. You can go to Walmart in Stephenville and you can get your pies and your cakes and your cookies and all your goodie stuff. All right. If you would like to support Erath County veterans and you don't feel like driving to Walmart, or if you're in our group on the East Coast, maybe you're out there in Pittsburgh, maybe you are out there in Alexandria, we're really happy to have you on. Go ahead and use that link down there. The link, jjclink.com/ECV, will allow you to donate to the veterans bake sale, but you're not getting the cookies. You're just supporting the veterans. All right. The other thing that I want to update, and this one actually makes me feel kind of bad. So we've had some issues with the swag box. Now, for those of you who've seen my Pride swag box unboxing, that's the level of experience that I was wanting to deliver to you all for the Building Wealth Together conference. And then we had an issue with the supplier. It's not the supplier's fault, okay? It is not the supplier's fault. We had a miscommunication with some of the people involved between designing the special items and getting them to the producer. And then when the producer got them, everything kind of fell apart. So we had to regroup, redesign, and recover, right? That's what you do in business. Things don't go well, you don't give up and throw in the towel. You just find another way. And so we found another way. But now we found another way, and now there's shipping delays. So the email, I sent out an email about 2 weeks ago that said, hey, your stuff is not going to get here in time. We can cancel your order, or we can fulfill it and you can just wait. That offer still stands. I'm going to shoot another email out as soon as I have an estimated shipping time from the producer that it's coming here. And then I'll be able to get it to you. I still intend to get it to you by Christmas, and it's still gonna be worth it. So I put the link on there. If somebody else wants one, you can go ahead and get you one, because they're really gonna be nice. You're really gonna like them. All right. It's something I would like to get in the mail. And so, it's going to be nice. It's going to be nice. It's going to cover all the areas of abundance. We're going to cover your spiritual. We're covering your wealth. We're covering your physical. We're like getting rest and self-care and things like that. Ooh, we got that baked in. All right. And, it's so good. All right. I think I've got materials to make 2 more from what's already been ordered. So if you want that, go ahead and do it. Okay. Last announcement. Whoop, whoop. This is a good one. Okay. This is a good one. Hey, girl, that's my sister, y'all. That's my sister. Wait, am I pointing right? Wait, there we go. That's my sister. And if you want to check her out on Instagram, man, you want to talk about some plus size modeling. My goodness, she put some of the skinny ladies to shame. All right, hey girl. Okay. So last announcement: Black and Gold Friday. Y'all know I love me some Black and Gold Friday because I feel like instead of buying everything else, we should buy into ourselves. And we are still going to do Black and Gold Friday. Some of you may have been like, wait, I haven't seen an announcement calling for speakers. Well, I didn't do a call for speakers this year because we had a glitch with the Building Wealth Together conference. Okay. So y'all know my YouTube channel is got a lot more reach than my Facebook channel. And so with the YouTube channel, what normally happens is we get a couple thousand views and we get comments and we get a lot of people going to our speakers' web pages from the YouTube channel. Well, what happened this year is the things that I streamed, I set it up with a new platform, and especially our live things with Dr. Cheryl and General Spencer. And I did all of those live portions through AirMeet. And because I did the live portions through AirMeet, there's some kind of weird connection there where YouTube doesn't like stuff streamed with AirMeet. But I didn't know that. I've used AirMeet successfully, and I saw the new feature. I said, all right, I like it. And we were going to go with it. Well, because I used AirMe and because YouTube doesn't like AirMe, it shut everything down. It made all my videos private. So now you couldn't even see them. You might have seen them as they were going, right? But the bulk of my following isn't live on these things, especially for during the day. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take all the speakers from Building Wealth Together 2021, and we are going to do a blitz broadcast for Black and Gold Friday. So it's going to go a little longer than it usually does because normally it's just in the morning, but it's going to be power packed and dynamic. We're going to stream it through StreamYard. The speakers that are available to be on live, they're going to come on live with me. And those that aren't, I'm going to be doing my commentary. And if some of you in the audience want to jump in, I'm going to post the link so you can jump in. If we really want to have a family party kind of atmosphere, celebrating building wealth with excellence, building wealth with integrity, building wealth with ethically and quickly. That is an improper grammatical statement, but that's okay. We're going to roll with it. All right. So those are my announcements today. Let me see. Did I give all the banners? Okay. So I gave you the Erath County Vets if you want to donate. Otherwise, come to Walmart. Please come to Walmart. Come to Walmart and buy these yummy, yummy goodies, because if you don't buy them, I'll probably buy them. And even though I do no sugar between Thanksgiving and Christmas, there's a whole lot of time between now and Thanksgiving. All right. So come on and buy them so I don't have to worry about my willpower. All right. I'm gonna stop playing around. Our topic today is investing 101, and we're going to talk about investing, and then we're going to talk about commercial real estate. So I'm hoping you've got some time. If you don't have time, remember, you can catch the training. You can catch the training here at on phone if you're going to be driving around today, or you can also go to jjclink.com/dart, and you can buy access to the recordings. If you go to the main Building Wealth Together page, you'll find the Building Wealth Together monthly meeting one, and then you'll also find the real estate one. I didn't want to overload the banner thing, so I've only got the real estate one because that's the one that's going to be later. We're going to go ahead and go into investing right now. Let's see how this is going. Ooh, look at there I am in the picture, y'all. Okay, so investing 101. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because a lot of times people are made to feel like investing is so mysterious and it's just so complicated and we can't possibly understand anything about investing. I mean, we need to pay financial planners millions of dollars to help us invest. Now, look. As somebody who is both a financial coach and a trained financial planner, I'm very happy to take your money. If you want to pay me thousands of dollars every month to help you manage your money, I will help you do that. I got to do it more carefully though, because I got to make sure, because I'm not a Series 7 or any of that license. So I got to be very careful how I help you manage your money. But if you want to pay me to help you create a financial plan, we can do that. But there's a lot of investing that you can do yourself. And if you didn't get a chance to catch the investing portion of our Building Wealth Together conference, you definitely want to get those lifetime recordings so that you can get out there and listen to how can the individual invest in gold, in crypto, in the real estate. How can you get property without going to the bank? Like all these different things that you can do for investing. I want you to do them because this is how you build wealth. All right. So Real quick, let me back up a little bit and talk about building wealth a little bit, building wealth together. Our group, Building Wealth Together, um, I'm going to talk about who I am. I'm going to make you some promises. Those of you who've been with me for a couple months, years, some of you have been with me for years, you know my two promises, but I'm going to give them anyway for the new folks. All right. And then we're going to talk about the investing. But really quick, just for those who don't know about Building Wealth Together, this was the monthly meeting that grew out of my attempt to get out of 800 something thousand dollars of debt. And basically what I was doing was teaching people what I learned about money. We're not a get rich quick. This is not an easy button. All right. You're not going to press the easy button in this class, and you're not going to be like, boom, I'm a millionaire. You're not going to be like, boom, I made six figures this year. You will make six figures this year. And I like to think that I'm on the track to be a millionaire very soon. I mean, it's I had $800,000 to clean up over the last 12 years, right? So I'm kind of starting over again. Like we're finally on the positive trajectory, right? But I know that if I could clean that up in that time, that it's not going to take 12 years for me to hit the next 800 something thousand, and it's not going to take very long past that to get to a million, right? So that's the trajectory that I'm on. That's a trajectory that I want you to be on. Not only that, but I want you to have the confidence in your life that when life locks you down, you are able to get back up because you know these principles and you can put them in effect in your life. Okay. And so I just saw my title. I realized I forgot to talk about Amazon. I'll do that after I finish the Building Wealth Together overview. Okay. So this is not a get rich quick. This is not a get rich quick. This is a get rich right. And what we're really looking for, you can't see that. Let me take me off. Okay. Let me take that off. There we go. Now you can see it. Okay, so this is about getting rich right. There's a lot of legit ways to get rich, but that's not usually what you hear about in the late night TV or in the hotel room meetings, right? You hear about these things and it's always pay more money, or join this organization or join that organization and make more money. You're really making more money by bringing people in, and that's not what this is about today, okay? This is about finding ways that are ethical and repeatable. And what I mean by ethical and repeatable means it works for everybody. See, some of those other legit ways to get rich, they don't work for everybody. They work for certain personalities. Then they may work, but I, as a financial planner, I like to teach ways that work for everybody. And everybody can build wealth and create additional streams of income following the strategies that we teach in Building Wealth Together. Anybody can do it. Anybody can set up Amazon affiliate links. That anybody who has the ability to use a computer has the ability to do that. You don't have to have a certain personality. You don't have to be a networker. You don't have to do any of those things. You can still create a stream of income doing that. Okay, so those are the kinds of things we talk about here, and we're really big on education. I want you to understand why you're doing or why we're recommending what we're doing and recommending. We don't want anybody coming in here who's just going to follow by blind faith. I love faith. I love blind faith, but even faith in the Bible wasn't really blind faith. It was faith empowered by a relationship and understanding, okay, and an expectation. And so today I want you to learn about investing. All right. Our third Saturday meetings, they're always free. We are redesigning our membership in 2022. We will continue to have open mic meetings for our members. You're going to continue to have access to the recordings if you upgrade into a membership. You're still going to get to have a super cool title, but one thing that's going to change, and some of you going to be cheering me on because y'all know I love to give away stuff because I remember what it was like to be so broke, right? So I always find myself, my bleeding heart always wants to give away, but as the repository grows, I cannot keep the price the same. So if you know that you like this content, I encourage you to get out there and buy it, because every year as we begin the next year, the price is going to keep going up because I got all the other years out there. And I don't have all the other years. I mean, we're still trying to download the 2016, the 2014. Like we're still trying to get some of those recordings don't even exist. I mean, come on. I was, some of those classes I was nursing a baby and teaching at the same time, right? Like I wasn't even thinking about recording some of those classes, right? So, but what's out there is a really large repository that from day one you can get into it. If you go right now to Dart, if you go out there and get the real estate class and you get in that class, you're not just getting the classes we've taught this year. You're getting the classes we taught last year. You're getting the classes we taught the year before. You're getting however many years back we have of it. And you can take that education. You can sit down over your Thanksgiving break. If you're in Texas or Louisiana and you got the whole week off, right? You can sit down over your Thanksgiving break and get yourself a solid education in real estate investing, and you can run out and make millions with it. So I can't keep the price. I can't keep the price the same year to year because the value continues to grow. So if you know you want to get out there, you want to get out there soon. Then I'm not a hard salesperson. You either know that you like this and it's for you, or it's not for you. Either way, it's cool with me. All right. So that's one thing that's going to change. I do recommend that people join the Facebook group because we also do a lot of testing. I test a lot of content in that Facebook group, and it's funny because you'll see the evolution of new content. All right, so our sponsors are going to change. Our sponsorship methods are going to change. Let me make sure. Oops, I forgot to put this on there. I'm back on there. All right, there we go. Our sponsorship methods are going to change pretty soon. But here we have two of our lifetime um, sponsors, Florida by Nature's Oils. That was Erin Statham. She helped us get started in Louisiana. Steel Bayou voice actors. And then my son, Philly Bob the PK, is on there. Okay. And so then we have Architects Leadership Institute as a annual sponsor for this year. And then Hand Ups, Not Handouts, which I think is going to go away next year because I think they're changing the nature of their business, not because they're going away. All right. So, all right, let me talk about me real quick. Ooh, everybody's favorite topic to talk about is themselves, right? All right, seriously though, I want to make sure that you understand who I am and who I think I am to be able to talk to you about this stuff, right? Because I'm no big guru. I'm no national guru. I'm not on any news channels. I did get to be on Bloomberg once, and I'm going to get to be on Bloomberg again. So that's actually pretty exciting. I'm going to get to be on Bloomberg again next year. But I'm no guru, right? I'm no national name. I don't have any New York Times bestsellers or anything. But let me tell you a little bit about who I am. All right. I've been helping people get out of debt since 1998. The reason I've been helping people get out of debt since 1998 is because Larry Burkett helped me get out of debt, and I couldn't even afford I couldn't even afford his $8 cassette tape program. I couldn't afford it. But you know what he did? He authorized his staff to go ahead and send it to me anyway. I just had to promise that I would take his content, his materials, and help somebody else. Now, people don't do that anymore. People don't do that anymore. They don't say take my work, take my life's work and help somebody else. And so I really appreciate when I find people who do, and that's something that I do. Now, don't steal my content, right? Like give me some credit. You use my content, give me some credit. Or if you want to use my content, you don't want to give me credit, pay me for the license, right? Like, but that's what Larry Burkett did. And so I've been teaching people how to get out of debt since 1998, and then bought our first house in 99. And when I say our first house, this was me and my ex-husband. It was the first time either one of us had actually lived in an actual house, like an actual standalone house. I'd never lived in a standalone house before. We'd always lived in base housing or apartments or townhomes or something like that. I'd never lived in a house before. And we bought our first house, and we realized the power of real estate investing when we bought that first house. And then we were able to sell it later. Okay. So, unfortunately, despite all of my debt-free knowledge and education, I found myself getting lured by the real estate gurus who would say things like invest with other people's money and leverage debt, and there's good debt versus bad debt. And even today, if I recommend somebody to you and I tell you we disagree on some things, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be debt. And that other time out of 10, it's probably going to be religion, right? Like people often say, don't use your religion in your business. And I don't use religion when I go in a secular environment, like a corporate environment, but in my day-to-day business, well, I'm a pastor. I'm a minister. That's what I am. That's what I pastored for 4 years, and I may indeed pastor again. We don't know yet what the Lord's called me to do, but like I can't not be that person, right? Like I can't not be that. And so in my personal time and in my personal business, then that's who I am. But the biggest one that I will always disagree with people on is the leveraging of debt. And the reason I disagree with that is because, well, I ended up in a lot of it. We lost everything. And it was mostly what people consider to be good debt. It was real estate debt. And we bought smartly. We learned how to make our money when we buy. So it's not like we didn't buy smart. It's just that the market changed on us. And nobody who was teaching us about real estate back then was teaching us to be that conservative to handle that. Because in order to be conservative enough to handle the up and downs of the markets, especially those crashes, you had to be so conservative that it was no longer enticing to a lot of people to pay you to take their classes. Okay. And so I'm very thankful for the real estate mentors who did teach us that, hey, the market goes up, the market goes down, right? But not everybody was teaching that. So I do know a thing or two about getting out of debt. All right. All right, I'm going to turn this manner off for now. Let's go ahead and move. And his brother, when he came along, are never having to depend on handouts, never going to have to depend on the stores to have um, free samples so that you can make a nice dinner instead of the boring old rice and beans, right? But now that I've met those needs, I really feel like I've met those needs. My practice today. I'm going to teach you skills we're investing that you can put into practice today. And then I'm going to give you the opportunity to learn more. Now, if you will just indulge me for a second, I see that my signal is dropping. So I'm going to confirm real quick with the boys that they have not started using the internet. So just hang on. Remember, I'm living in rural Texas now. So just give me some grace, okay? I'll be right back. Hey everybody. I need you guys off the internet, please. My recording isn't working. Oh, okay. Well, somebody is Dad back? Okay. Well, I'm in the middle of recording, but okay. Oh, good, good, good. Stay off the internet, guys. Well, if you're listening on free conference call, or if you're listening on Facebook, I appreciate you giving me that little bit of grace there. And then I found out my husband's back from the doctors and he says he's feeling a little better. So that's good too. All right. So these are the two promises. Ooh, sorry. Let me try that again. These are the two promises that I give to every class that I teach. I'm going to teach you something that's content that you can put in practice today. I don't like to teach fluffy classes. I want to give you real content, real juicy content that you can put into practice today. And then, of course, like any speaker, there's no way I can pack everything I know into this short time. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to learn more, okay? I would invite you to the summit, but it's already happened. So I feel a little bit embarrassed that the slide is in here. Although you can go to this page, secure your seat. It'll take you to a place to get your VIP upgrade, and you can get a VIP upgrade of all the classes. Okay, so let me just say it that way. All right. So today's main topic is investing 101. Let me take a quick sip here. For those of you on free conference call, I hope that wasn't too loud in your ear. Okay. Um, So today's topic is investing 101. We're going to talk about how money moves. And this is really important to me because I find that people are always talking about invest. Invest is one of those words that's like really popular right now. NLP, motivate people to move, because you're not just buying, you're investing. You're investing in yourself. You're investing in this, you're investing in that. And so I find that people use that word very liberally. And we have come as a society to believe that something is an investment when it actually really isn't an investment. Okay. And so we're going to talk about what is and what isn't an investment. All right. Investing. Oops. Well, it would help if I plug in my computer. There we go. All right. Investing 101, how money moves. So the basic concept of this is that money is exchanged for things of value, and some people have more money than others. So people who have money, they pay people who don't have enough money to do the things that the people with the money can't or won't do. And that's not always bad. This is how the market makes room for us, right? And so the general thing about money, though, is it moves from the people who have it to the people who don't, and it comes back to the people who had money in the first place. So the people who have money pay people who don't to do something. The people who don't spend money on stuff, and that stuff ends up profiting the people who had money. So money moves from people who have it to people who don't and back again. They got more money and the poor person has more stuff. And this is the cycle that builds wealth or increases poverty. And at the end of the day, if we are not careful, at the end of the day, we find ourselves trading more of our money for stuff instead of trading our money for things that make more money. Then we ourselves will decrease in our wealth. Okay. So this is a very important process a very important principle. This is a very important principle to understand. Money moves from people who have it to people who don't, usually in exchange for some service or a task or a product, and then back again. The people who had the money end up with more money. The people who didn't have money end up with more stuff. This is the cycle that builds wealth or increases poverty. So our first key of wealth that I want you to take away from today's training is to spend less than you make and save or invest the rest. Okay. So when we talk about investments, I have been told personally that everything on this screen is an investment. And I'm going to ask you, you can drop it in the chat if you're watching on Facebook. If you're listening on the free conference call, let me put that link up for those who might have to drop off. All right. If you're listening on the free conference call, I'm going to read this out. So this is a slide with a picture of a house, a picture of a very high quality designer bag, a picture of the stock market, a picture of a high quality furniture set, and a picture of a very nice car. Okay. I think that's actually a Porsche sedan there. All right. All right. So which of these are investments? I have been told that those nice handbags are investments, but you know what? They are not investments. That nice handbag does not make me look good. Now, I will say that there are times when the nice handbag or the nice shoes contribute to the appearance, and that may open up some doors for me. That might get me some more clients, but those are still not investments. Those are business expenses. All right. There's a difference between the two, and we want to understand that difference today. Investments are things that make us money, and most of our stuff loses money. Like that real nice car, it may give you the clout and it may make you feel good. It may make you have the status that you want to do the things that you want to do. But honestly, with the minute you drive it off that lot, whether it's new or used, it still loses value. New cars lose a lot of value unless it's a RAV4. I was really upset to discover that I could not get a good deal on a used RAV4 because they really hold their value. All right. But most cars, most stuff, most furniture, most pocketbooks, most, you know, Christian Louboutin shoes, they lose money the minute you take them out the store. All right. And so it's not like you can't lose money. It's not like I'm going to tell you, oh, well, you should never buy anything that loses money. Well, I buy things that lose money all the time. It's okay to buy things that lose money if it's for good reason. So like your living expenses, the lifestyle, sometimes it's good. Making memories with your family. I'll never get that money back. I spend a lot of money making memories with my family. If you ask what are my greatest expenditure of funds, some people would think, because I've been trying to elevate my wardrobe, right? I've been trying to elevate my wardrobe. So some people might think it was clothing, but actually the biggest personal category of spending that I do other than personal growth is experiences with my kids and my husband. And so that's okay. It's okay. But it needs to be a choice, and it needs to be an understanding that I am going to spend this money, but I also need to have money that's going to grow for me somewhere else. Okay. If we're trading all of our money for stuff, well, no, not all of our money. I don't want you to trade all your money. Let me say that again. If we are trading our money for stuff, if we are trading our money for things, if we are trading our money for experiences, we need to make sure that they are worthwhile. If we want our money to make us money, then we gotta invest. And so for those of you who are on the free conference call, let me go back to that slide. The things that are investments that are on the slide would be the real estate and the stock market, the furniture, the pocketbook, the car. Those are not investments, even though that's what people always tell us so they can get us to spend more money on it. All right. Excuse me for just a second. Oh, excuse me. It was a late playoff game last night, but we won. Hey, we won. All right. So how does investing make you money? There's a couple different ways to invest, and these are some of the basic principles. Okay. You could buy something that goes up in value and then sell it at a higher price, right? You could buy something like a dilapidated house, add value to it by fixing it up, and then sell it for a higher price, and you make the difference. Okay. You could buy a piece of a company, which is called like a share, and you could get paid a piece of the profits, either when you sell the shares as they've grown, or when the company pays dividends to all the shareholders. Okay, this is where the stock market comes into place. Oh, let me get that off there so you can see that. The other thing, another way that you could invest and to make money for you, and there's a million different ways, right? These are just four, okay? These are just four. But another way you could do it is you could lend money and charge a fee. Now, here's the thing that I want to say. Some people find this interesting because I do teach a class on private investing. The Bible, this is for the people that ascribe to the Bible. I'm not trying to push my faith on anybody, but because a huge subset of my population that watches me is Christian, evangelical Christians, right? I want to address this with lending, because the Bible doesn't say don't lend. The Bible recommends against borrowing, and it does recommend in some places against lending, but then it also gives you guidelines if you're going to lend to not take advantage of people in your lending. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind, because one of the most powerful strategies for making money with your money is actually lending. Okay, but we have to be careful not to be predatory, and that's what the Bible warns us about. All right, so you could lend money and charge interest. And okay, very 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 powerful way that people make money off of us is they lend us money through the form of credit cards or loans, and then they charge us interest. So money grows at faster interest rates, and the interest rate is a representation of how risky the investment is. Okay, so like for example, we said let me go back to that slide. So, for example, we said one thing we could do is buy something, add some value to it, and then we could sell it at a higher price, right? We could buy an old house, add some updates to it, fix the walls, fix the floor plan, and then sell it at a higher price. Well, that's a very, very risky investment. So you would expect to profit more, and you would only take that on if you were going to profit enough to be worth the risk, right? Similarly, when you invest in the market, you buy into a company, you buy a share into a company. If that company is more risky, generally speaking, in the market, they're going to compensate you more for taking a chance on them, for infusing cash into their business. And that's why it's so important to pay attention to the interest rates. Money grows faster at higher interest rates. Of course, you could also lose money at higher interest rates. And so you think about these higher interest rates. Have you ever noticed how banks have the biggest buildings in town? What are they doing with the money? All right. They are holding our money for a very small interest rate. And then they might give us like 1 or 2% in the market, right? For our savings or money market or a CD. And then they turn around and invest our money out by lending it out and doing other things. They get a higher interest rate. They're making more money, and now they pocket the difference. Mm-mm-mm. Okay. This is not just loans for property, but this is loans for just about everything that we are using. We are basically putting money in somebody else's pocket using the interest. Okay. Now, am I gonna knock it? I'm not gonna always knock it, because you know what? Sometimes sometimes we live in a market where you just can't go out and buy a house in cash. You could if you save for 10, 20 years, but for a lot of us, saving to get that 15, 20% down and then doing a conventional loan is going to be profitable for us. There's just some things that are like that. But I'm gonna tell you right now, the things on this picture, look at this picture. Most of these things are not worth the interest. And you see that I got college on there. Now, I have had arguments with so many mamas about this. And then you fast forward 10, 15 years, and their kiddos are mired in debt, or even worse, because they took out the loans for their kids to go to college. Now they're mired in debt, and now their strength is failing, and they don't have anything for their retirement, and college loans aren't bankruptable. So anything on this screen, I'm going to recommend that you not consider that an investment or a debt that you want to leverage. I'm going to recommend that you pay attention to the fact that the bank is charging you big money to use their money when you could have saved that and pocketed that profit for yourself. we've got to understand a couple of different ways that the companies profit off of us. And I'm not saying that's bad. Okay, I want to make sure you know, do I want your company to do I want companies to profit? Of course I want companies to profit. I want my company to profit. I like waking up in the morning and there's some new people. This person bought this class, this person bought that class, this person bought financial coaching, this person bought a one-off financial hour of financial planning with me. That personally, I feel like, for the cost of 3 hours, you could get 6 months. But you know what? If you want to spend more money with me, I will take your money. Let me tell you, I will take your money, and I would not feel bad about it at all. I will take your money, right? But I want companies to be profitable. But if you're struggling and you can't make it, then you got to understand these principles because you don't have money to waste. You need to put that money to work for you. Okay, so one way that we talked about the company's profit off of us is by lending us money and charging the interest rate, and then that company invests it and they pocket the difference, right? Another way that companies profit. I'm sorry. There's two different things. One is by charging the interest. That's profit in and of itself. But also when the banks hold our money and they invest it at a higher rate than they're paying us back. That's a different one there. So I think I kind of went on a mini rant there and confused two issues. So there's two different issues there. Okay. And this is them holding their money. All right. So one of the things that we have to be aware of is even if it's the same interest rate, even if it's the same interest rate, okay, the way the interest rate is calculated determines how much money is going to be made off of us or how much money we could make off of lending. See, a lot of times we think of interest as a simple interest rate. Okay, my interest rate is 10%. So every year I'm going to pay 10% of the balance that's owed. Well, that's called simple interest. Compound interest is where each month you're adding back in what's owed, and you're calculating it in an interesting capacity. Now in the market, this concept works for us because we can harness the power of compound interest, and I'm going to describe it a little better later. I know I kind of stumbled over that a little bit, but I got some graphics that are going to really explain compound interest here in a second. Okay, but in the market, compound interest works for us because the money that we invest, it makes a little money and it keeps getting reinvested. But when it comes to our credit card and these other loans that are being calculated, well, they got some wonky calculations so that they can harness the power of compound interest off of us, but ain't nobody paying us compound interest for our savings accounts. All right. So we want to understand how these things work. And the bottom line is it's time for us to pocket the profit we've been giving to everybody else. And the way we pocket that profit is by spending less than we make and investing the rest. So let me not get ahead of myself. But basically, I'm not going to keep paying the bank interest for stuff that I want. I'm going to save up for it and buy it myself. I'm going to buy my car myself. I'm going to buy my restaurant and my vacations and my experiences. That's why I really hate that layaway isn't as popular as it used to be. You used to lay away gifts and things for your kiddos for Christmas, and you just pay on a little bit by little bit, and by Christmas, it's taken care of. And I encourage a lot of my clients to put aside a Christmas and birthday fund. Every month you're throwing in $25 or $50 or $100 into a birthday or Christmas fund. So you always have the birthdays. You want to get a gift for your mom and your grandma and everybody. You always got it covered, right? Because I don't want these companies taking your money. I think it's time for you to pocket that profit. I think it's time that you pocketed that profit. I think it's time that you pocketed that profit that everybody else is making off of you. All right. So wealth key number 2 is to avoid debt. If you are always paying interest to someone, they are getting more and more and you are getting less and less. And I know that can be difficult sometimes. I know, especially when it comes to college, people don't believe me on this one, but I'm telling you right now, you're going to be hard pressed to come to me with the situation where I'm going to say, yes, you should take $100,000 worth of loans for that. I even have people say, well, my child has an opportunity to go to an Ivy League school. Okay, well, that's really great, but what good is it going to do your child to go to an Ivy League school and then be hamstrung by $200,000 of debt for the next 10 years? So now they have the degree and they can go get the job, but all their money is going to college loan repayment, and they can't build any wealth. I would rather your child go to a smaller, less expensive, maybe not as now I don't want them going to some podunk, fly by night internet school. I mean, I'm going to an internet school right now for my doctorate, but they're a legit university, right? But I don't want them going to some, pay to play wonky thing. I want them to go somewhere that's legit, but there are a lot of legit regional colleges. Like where I live, you've got Tarleton State University. It's not Yale, it's not Harvard, but if you're in Texas, it's a well enough known university. They got an excellent agriculture program. They got an excellent drama program. Y'all, I got a tour of that drama program and I was just blown away. I was like right here in the heart of Stephenville, right? Oh, hey, Janie, nice to see that you're on. All right. Well, I bet you have something to say about colleges. I know that Tarleton's part of the Texas A&M system. Uh, where she works. The thing is about these colleges is yes. Does a big name help and open some doors? Sure, it does. Does the networking help open some doors? Sure, it does. Does the fact that I have a degree from the Air Force Academy open up some doors? Sure, it does. Until they see me and then they realize I'm a black woman and JJ Conway's not some strapping blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy. But your kiddos can get a firmer foundation in one school, and they can go to Harvard Business School and get a master's or get a certificate program. They can go to Howard and get, well, actually, I wouldn't put Howard in that category. They're not as pricey, but they can go to any of these bigger name schools and get additional education once they've got a solid footing. But what we do is we go in and we get these loans, and then our kids get out there, and while everybody else is investing and they're buying their first home and they're paying off their debt and they've got their 12-month savings account and they're investing in the market and their income, their passive income is just going up, 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 and up, and up, up. Ours is just going down, 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 and down because those college loans. And then if the parents took on them, then now the parents are having struggles because they can't even pay for their needs in their retirement. Okay. This was not supposed to be a college loan rant, but you got one today. I think some people might make a game of how many times can how many times a year can JJ not go into a college loan rant. All right. All right. So wealth key number 2 is to avoid debt. If you're always paying interest to someone, they are getting more and more and you're getting less and less. That's a penalty. That is something you are paying them simply for the convenience of using their money. It is something that you're paying them oftentimes because we didn't plan better ourselves. Okay. And we got to stop doing that. We got to think more strategic. All right. Did you know that there is a mathematical money point called enough? Now, in math, it's called the crossover point. I'm going to talk to you about this point. I like to call it the point called enough because it really is the point called enough. It's a point on the graph. When you live on less than you make and you invest the rest. Okay. So I want you guys, if you're listening on free conference call, you cannot see the slide that I'm showing you. The slide that I'm showing you shows your income is a blue line going up. It shows your expenses as a green line going down. Maybe you had some more expenses in the beginning of your work life. You were paying back college loans. You bought a house. You were kind of, getting yourself settled, but your expenses kind of leveled out after a while. The difference between your income and your expenses is what you can invest. Okay. And when you invest that, your investments over time, they start to put out extra money. Now, notice that this line is curved. Remember, we talked about compound versus simple interest. This investment line is curved because you're investing it in things that take advantage of compound interest, like the stock market. Okay. Your investments are putting out extra money in addition to what you invested. And there comes a point where your investments put out enough extra money that they meet your expenses. Boom. That point is called enough. And I'm going to tell you right now, you can reach the point called enough where you can now spend time on your dreams and your passions. When you have enough investments, then you don't have to work. You can spend your time on your ministry. You can spend your time on the things that are important to you. You can spend your time playing. You can spend your time with your family. You can spend your time on the things that matter to you instead of spending your life force slaving away for somebody else. Okay. The problem for a lot of us, and I don't have the slide here. I thought I did. I think it's in my youth class, my Money Blossoms youth class that we made maybe 5 or 6 years ago. That one shows that a lot of people are hamstrung by loans and debts in the beginning. So they take so long to pay those off, or they become so hamstrung by those that they almost never reach the point called enough. In order to reach the point called enough, you have got to make a commitment to your future. You have got to make a commitment to thinking long term and to thinking strategically about where you want to be and how you're going to get there. Okay. So we want to make sure that we understand this concept. This red line, for those of you who are on free conference call, on the slide that had it had the blue line for income that went up year after year. We expect that you're going to walk in excellence. Your income's going to basically raise year after year until you retire. We've got the green line that shows your expenses coming down and leveling out after life becomes kind of settled. You invest the difference, right? And eventually your investments, they pay off. They pay out a certain amount. We draw that as a red line. And when that red line that's exponentially growing crosses your expense line, now you have enough in passive income that is covering your daily expenses. So when you hit this point called enough, your investments are covering your house note if you have one. Your expenses are covering your travel if you like to travel. Your expenses are covering all the things you got to do with your kids. Your expenses are covering all that. So everything else in your life is gravy. And that's the first point that I want people to get to. Actually, the first point is financial flexibility, but the point called enough is where I feel like you get financially independent, because now you don't have to work. You can choose to work. You may choose to do some lifestyle things and work for some lifestyle things, or work because it's fulfilling, but you don't have to work to meet your basic needs. And that's where we need to get to. All right. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples now of some investments. You can see here that I've used a basic investment calculator. This example here shows $50,000 going into the stock market. Now I know, excuse me. I know a lot of people who want to illustrate this. They use higher rates of return. Okay. And in some cases, I might use a higher rate of return to illustrate a point. If you invest in what I call better funds, you can achieve those higher rates of return. But for most people starting out, I don't feel like you need to do that right away. I don't feel like you need to pay somebody $3,000 a month to manage your money when you don't have at least $1 million in net worth. Okay. If you don't have $1 million net worth, you can go out to Vanguard and Fidelity and Chase and all that. You can open up your own brokerage account, and they're all pretty much the same. They all pretty much have low fees, and it's all about what interface you like the best. And you can start investing your money. Okay. Or if you like real estate, you can start investing your money. You don't have to pay somebody to manage that for you right now. Okay. So I'm using the rates that you would expect to get as a individual person investing in the market. Could you get more? Sure. You could get 10, you could get 12%. Those are average rates for actively managed funds. Okay. But I'm not teaching that right now. I'm teaching this I'm putting the cookies on the bottom shelf. Right. Or what is it? How does Dr. Jonas say it? I'm swinging the bucket down low so everybody can get a drink. Okay. So as you grow in wealth, then we can talk about the more heavily managed funds. They cost more, but they can make you more. Okay. So here's this example. In 20 years, at a conservative 8% rate, your investment is worth $233,000. And that's with not putting anything else in there. You dropped 50,000 in, you left it alone for 20 years. Now you got 200 and something thousand. Okay. Now let's take a look at a rent home. Maybe the stock market is not your thing. Maybe you're like, I'm not sure about the stock market. You know, all these companies are crazy. Or maybe they're just investing in things that you don't want. I have a fantastic podcast coming out that we recorded at FinCon, and I actually forgot to release it. And I was thinking about it the other day because I was on one of my guests' Twitter pages, and I was like, man, this guy's phenomenal. Let me retweet his podcast. And then I was like, oh, I never published it, so that's coming soon. but in any event, maybe the stock market is not your jam. Okay, so maybe the stock market is not your jam. Maybe you feel more comfortable with real estate. Real estate is tangible. You can hold it. You know, it's something you can see, touch, taste, and smell. And you know that over time the market goes up and the market goes down, but over time real estate goes up. Same with the stock market, but it's more easier than things that we can see. So here we got a $50,000 rent home. This is a little home in a nominal community. Maybe the rents are about $450 a month. So that's maybe about $5,400 a year they're bringing in. I always like to account for expenses. Okay. Did I put the slide back on for you? Okay, good. I always like to account for expenses. And then you think about an average home, the market goes up, the market goes down, but the average home, 4% growth every year, right? So in 20 years, that home is going to be worth about $110,000. Plus, over those 20 years, you collected $108,000 in rent. And so you have the money that you collected over the years, you have the value of the property. That is an investment. Okay. One of the best ways to build wealth is by starting early so that you can take advantage of the compound interest. You see on these charts, I'm going to go back to them. For those of you who are listening on free conference call, you can't see this, but there's basically the charts show the exponential growth of the money, and it shows the interest earned, okay, on the money. It shows the growth of the money and the interest earned, and you can see it follows an exponential thing. So exponential means the line curves and it goes up, 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 faster and faster and higher as you go. I really do recommend that you go to jjclink.com slash oh, what is it? Is it BWT? You want to go out to buildingwealthtogether.com and you want to get access to these slides, or you can go on my Facebook. It'll be up for about a day or two. Okay. But you see the exponential growth. All right. This is because of the taking advantage of compound interest. Compound interest, y'all, compound interest is like free money. This is where your investment is also earning interest. Okay. So simple interest, I kind of touched on this earlier. Simple interest would be like if I invest $100,000 every year, I'm going to get 10% back. That's actually pretty good. That's actually not too shabby, right? But the compound interest is where you invest the earnings as well, and you earn on that too. So I invest 100K. Every year I get 10% back. That 10% gets reinvested. So it's really like next year I invested 110,000, not 100,000. Okay? So my investment on year 1, it earned that 10%, and then that little bit earned 10% of the little bit. So now you keep going year after year after year, and you keep earning interest on what you already earned. This is the power of compound interest. So you start, like if we were to play this out, you find that you have more money, and more money as time goes on. And so instead of where you would have, you would start, like if we were doing the 10% example, instead of just having where you have, you have what is that, 300 or 3,000 back. All right. Now you're having even more. And each one of these little bits keeps adding up year after year after year. And it doesn't feel like it's making much difference in the beginning. Okay. You see down here, years 1, 5, and 9, right? But because, you say, oh, well, that's just a little teeny tiny bit. That's just a little teeny tiny bit. But you keep going year after year. You keep going year after year, and you can see the spread. So look at the spread after about 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. Okay. It takes time and consistency. And in reality, this is like every other success principle that we have in life. Everything takes time and consistency. A lot of people give up because in the beginning, it doesn't seem like it's making much of a difference. But if you keep going, the difference becomes huge. It's the same in your health. Taking that daily walk in the beginning, it may not feel like it's making much of a difference, but you compound that over a lifetime and it makes a huge difference. You're investing in yourself with the walking. Same with a relationship. Nurturing your relationship every single day, especially, like I retired from the Air Force, and I chose, with the support of my husband, to become a full-time mom and entrepreneur and pour into my children. And I'm telling you, for that first like 4 or 5 months, I was not seeing a difference. And I hope he doesn't get embarrassed by me saying this, but now you compound the interest of that day by day by day by day. Okay. Well, now I see a return on investment that's growing day by day. My heart was overflowed at the playoff game when my teenager actually left his friends, came down to the railing to say hi to his mama. Don't tell me this doesn't work. This principle works in every aspect of your life. It's about the power of being consistent every day, every month, every year. It doesn't matter what principle it is in your life. You're trying to get better in your health. You're trying to grow spiritually. You don't just go to a spiritual retreat and all of a sudden now you're just amazingly and you're glowing. It's every day prayer and Bible study, or whatever your religion is. It's every day prayer, study, meditation, fasting. Every day it builds, it builds, it builds. The same with money. It's the same with everything in life, y'all. These success principles, they span across all of our life. All right. So I find it, I already kind of mentioned this, a lot of times financial institutions, they'll take our money, they'll pay us simple interest, but they're going to invest our money back in the stock market, or they're going to invest it in loans, and they harness the power of compound interest. All right. So I want to give you an illustration of the time value of money. Some of you have heard of this before. This is the story of Ben and Arthur. I actually remember reading this case study. I think the names were probably different back then, but I remember seeing this when I was in an economics class, and it was like a 1 day thing. It was like a 1 day thing that they just kind of touched on this, and I was like, well, I need to make sure I start putting money into the investment and into the stock market. Now, I did, and then I liquidated all that money to, cover some of my sweet talking ex-husband's debts and bills that he needed to pay. And don't do that. All right. But if I hadn't, that portfolio would be worth over $1 million now. Yeah. Because basically, when I was a cadet at the academy, I scrimped and saved everything. I didn't have the money for the computer. Computers were new, the internet was new, and they were issuing everybody computers. I didn't have money for it, so they took that out of my cadet pay, and everything else went to investments. I've spent about maybe $20 a month on me, and the rest went into investments. So I had done really well, but then I messed up. Sometimes we just mess up. Sometimes we do. It's called, Dave Ramsey calls it a stupid tax. Boy, I paid a serious stupid tax with that man. But this, I know you can't see the Ben and Arthur example very well unless you've got a big screen. But basically, what you've got here is Ben starts at 19, and he invests $2,000 a year till he turns 26. Then I guess maybe he gets married or something, right? And he goes and buys a house, and he gets to enjoying life, and he just stops investing for whatever reason. Okay. So for 8 years, he put in $2,000 a year from age 19 to 26, a total of 16,000 into his investment account. Arthur kind of did it the other way around. He started off having fun. He was drinking, partying, having a good old time. And then at age 27, he realized he wanted to settle down and have a family. And then he realized, ooh, I need to make sure I provide for my family and myself in my old age. And so he starts investing at age 27. He puts a total of 78,000 into his investment funds. And so when you get to age 65, if you can't read this, then you might be surprised to know that at retirement at age 65, guess who had more money? In this example, Ben has over $2.2 million. He's got almost $2.3 million, whereas Arthur has $1.5 million. This is the power of compound interest. It's that extra little bit of time. All right. This is the power of that compound interest. All these little bits add up. It doesn't feel like it the first 5 years, but over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, it really adds up. All right. That's why I want you to take advantage of this. But you can't take advantage of this if you're steeped in debt, because you might be investing in the market and earning 8 to 12%, but you're paying 36% on your credit card. So you're really still losing. I want to encourage you that the little things really do matter. The little consistencies, $25 a month, $100 a month, $500 a month, whatever it is that your family can afford. Be consistent and do it, and it works. Wealth comes from our daily, consistent, and persistent behavior. It doesn't come, generally speaking, from, a lump sum. Some people give you an inheritance, or maybe you won the lotto, maybe something happened that was give you a cash infusion. If you don't have daily, consistent, and persistent habits when it comes to how you manage your money, that money will be gone, because it's not about the one-time hit. It's about consistent daily practices, and it takes time. But once you do it, and once you begin to see the fruit of it, then you realize that you should have been doing it all along. That's one of the things, like, I can say that now. I remember almost 10 years ago, I'm in a mastermind, and everybody's laughing at me, talking about, well, I'm tired of financial planners telling me to cut back my Starbucks and invest $25 to $50 a month. $25 to $50 a month doesn't do me any good. Well, I'm going to tell you something. My ex-husband and I have been investing $50 a month in my son's 529 plan, and I siphoned some of that money last year to use for my doctorate before I realized I could just do the GI Bill. And then that money's already grown back. No, look, don't y'all tell him he got a college fund. I need him to earn his own money, right? But that money's already grown back, because we're at the 16-year point, and he's at the point where his money is growing and growing and growing. Okay. So don't tell me this stuff doesn't work. Those same people who were laughing at me back then, they're still working toxic jobs, killing themselves, working 2 or 3 jobs, trying to balance everything. I'm not trying to balance anything anymore. I balance against, does this bring me and my family closer together and closer to our goals, or doesn't it? And if it doesn't, I can be like, see you later. I can close down the Calendly. I'm going to be okay. I'm still going to have food on my table, and my kids are still going to have clothes on their backs, because of the power of compound interest. All right. So never underestimate the power of daily, consistent, and persistent behavior in the direction of your dreams. All right. Speaking of kids, let's talk about kids IRA. And this is something that I'm finally getting around to doing. I kept saying I was going to do it, and I kept going through the process, and then something would always happen, and then I wouldn't do it. And finally, we're working on kids IRAs for my boys, because now my oldest is legit working, and my youngest, y'all have seen his pictures. That boy is such a ham. He's in my videos. He's my assistant. He's my model. And those are all legitimate things for somebody under 16 to get paid to do. Okay. It's legit, but you have to be very careful about that, just because there's only certain things that the IRS will consider for kids income. All right. But let's say your kid does do some modeling for your business, or let's just say your child is able to file or make phone calls. Like my son now speaks in some of my conferences. He speaks at some of my sessions that I hold locally, right? So I can pay him for that. Just $25 a month in the child's IRA is going to result, especially if you do it as a Roth, is going to result in, is going to result in just $25 a month, $384,000 off of $25 a month. Don't tell me this stuff doesn't work. And that's just a little tiny bit. That's a total contribution of $15,000, and you turn that into $384,000. Okay, so I want you to hear me on this. You put in 15, you get out almost 385 back. This is why others are making money off of us, and we haven't been making money off of ourselves, because we haven't understood how this works. But I'm showing you today how it works, so you can have confidence and you can go forward and you can make these investments. All right. Let me show you another example, because that's really about the cost of a nice toy every month, right? Here's another one. Let's say you take your kid out to fast food, and I'm telling you what, now you know the fast food has gotten high when my teenager is complaining about how expensive Whataburger is, right? Like, he won't even go now and spend his gift card. He's like, it's too expensive. So fast food has gotten expensive, right? If you take your kids out to pizza, or you take them out to McDonald's, you take the family out once a week, that I'm averaging about $100 a month on that. Okay. By the time you feed the family, by the time you do whatever else you do while you're there, look at this here. If that's $100 a month in 50 years, if you put that in a Roth IRA, which doesn't tax you when you later on the earnings, you have put in $60,000 over your lifetime. Okay. But you getting out 1.5 million. Do you see this? You're putting in 60,000 over a lifetime, and you're getting out 1.5 million. Do you begin to see how people are making money off of you, and how come the rich seem to keep getting richer and the poor keep seeming to get poorer? Because the poor don't realize they could just put $100 a month in for 50 years and come out with $1.5 million. But everybody under the sound of my voice today, if you have money for nails, you have money for hair, you have money for this, you have money for that, you got money for McDonald's, not to mention the health bills that you will save if you stop going to McDonald's, right? And not to mention the money on the health bills and doctor visits and emergency rooms that you'll save, and medications that you'll save if you stop eating fast food, right? I know it's hard. I'm struggling with that myself. But aside from all that, you just put that $100 a month in there every day for 50 years. You are paying 60,000 total, and you're getting out 1.5 million. Can your kids retire off 1.5 million? Can you retire off of 1.5 million? We didn't know this stuff when we were little, but we could know it now, and we can make sure we pass on these strategies to our children. All right. Let's look at another one. Oh my. All right. Y'all know I love me some Starbucks. When I was in Virginia, it was funny because I talked so much about Starbucks, and I went through all of the look. I even had a talk. We went through all of it. 1 per week, 2 per week, 3 per week. Okay. Okay. Um, this is just if you look at what I've got here. Okay. This is just high school and college. This is just high school and college. This is me in high school and college going to Starbucks 3 times a week. Now I go into Starbucks sometimes. I've been going more to the cold smoke because my little one likes that. I see the same people in there every day. All right. If you're in there every day, we're gonna get to that in a second. But this is just 3 times. This is moderate, right? This is just 3 times a week. And this is just during high school and college. Like you graduate and you start working and you realize you can get your own machine and brew it at home, right? But just the amount during high school and college, if you put that amount into the market instead of into your belly, just that alone, when you become 75, it's $800,000. Hope you like the coffee, right? Or cocoa, which I do. Now, here's the one I said we were going to get to. One every day. All right? One every day. Just during high school and college. During the time that we think it doesn't matter. During the time that it's not really that important. How many of our college kids are thinking about investing, right? They're not really thinking about investing. And I've been in some of these little stores. We have Charleston State University here. So we have all these little campus stores. That stuff is expensive, y'all. And these college students, they're just buying it and buying it. And I'm like, where do they get this money from? But look at what would happen if they put that money into the investment. Just 200 a month for 10 years. They don't even have to invest after graduation. At age 75, they'd have $1.7 million. Don't you want your children to have $1.7 million when they retire? I mean, maybe you want them to have more, but wouldn't that just be a nice foundation, a nice start? We always talk about, well, when you get rich and famous, buy mama a house. Well, they don't have to be rich and famous to put $200 a month into the stock market. They really don't. They really don't. They really don't. They're already spending enough. They're already spending that themselves. My son worked hard. He helped some friends move, and he earned like $250. You know what he bought with that money? Now I'm not gonna knock it because they were really cool. He bought him some bass boosted headsets to help him get pumped up for the games. $220. These kids have money. Let's teach them how to make their money work for them. I'm not saying don't buy the headsets. In fact, when he left them and they got stolen, he left them out in the locker room. And even though it was over a bag, somebody found them and maybe it got knocked over. Who knows what happened? Somebody took them. And I would have liked to have bought him another pair just because I felt so bad for him. But, it's not to not have nice things. It's to make the decision to let go of things of a lower value so that we can reach for things of a higher value. So maybe the bass boosted headsets to a 16-year-old boy is a higher value, but maybe some of the candy from Walmart or maybe some of the fast food, maybe that's not a higher value. And maybe that can be invested. And if the child is working, it can be legally invested in a tax-free vehicle that he will never have to pay tax on that 1.7 million. We should be teaching this to all of our kids. Okay. So I really want to encourage you on this. This doesn't take a whole lot. And the reason we don't know that is because there are a lot of entities in our lives that have vested interest in making us feel like money is too complicated and that we can't do it. Okay. So let me give you some other examples. Okay. So we've got here $35 a week invested. You can see how much it is after 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, depending on the interest rate. Okay. We want to understand how these things work. And we want to understand that these things can actually work for us. Okay. So what I'm showing you is investing in the stock market. And like it said on that slide there, this is where you're basically buying a piece of a company. You're investing in a company and you're getting paid a piece of the profit. Either, and this growth is coming from the value of the company going up. Okay, the value of the stock going up. All right. So we want to understand that these are powerful concepts that any of us who have the ability to hear my voice and understand what I'm saying, then any of us can do it. So that's going to lead us to my wealth key number 3 for today, which is to invest in index funds as early as possible so that you can take advantage of that compound interest. Now, I'm not knocking day trading. I'm not knocking investing in individual stocks, but honestly, for most of our college and high school, or most of us just getting started, we don't have the time, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the energy to really actively manage that the way we could. Now, can you make a lot of money doing that? Sure, if you have the time, energy, and the connections to get the information you need to do it well, and the stomach to do it well, right? And we can sit down and talk about that. I've learned how to do it. I've learned how to do it from people who've successfully made millions for them and their friends doing it. I just didn't have the stomach for it and the energy for it, and I had other things like my children that were more important to me at that time. Will I probably do some day trading later on? Sure, I probably will, because it is a very profitable thing if it's done right. Unfortunately, most people that come to me as a financial planner, they lost their money. All right. So invest in individual stocks, day trading, and all that stuff. It can absolutely work. But if you're a busy professional, or if you're a parent who's got a lot going on, or you're the sandwich generation, so you got to take care of your kids and your parents, then I recommend set it and forget it with an index fund. All right. All right. I hope you guys are having fun. I hope you guys are having fun with this. I know I'm having fun with this. All right. Let's see. So y'all remember that quiz I gave you in the beginning? Remember that quiz about which ones were investments? And I hope you can see now why everybody keeps encouraging us to take these loans, and they call these things investments that really aren't investments, because they are lending us money, and they are making profit off the interest. And even so, they may be able to continue taking more and more and come up with reasons to get us more and more, but this is our opportunity to stop this cycle of poverty and switch it around, use the interest for ourselves, and begin to build wealth. All right. I want you to send your kids to college, not the banker's kids. All right. I want you to build your dream home, not the payday lender's dream home. All right. I want you to understand that these things that are not investments, but we call investments, and society has conditioned us to be investment. And then we go to church, and everybody's wearing the new bag. And it's funny because it's a wind that blows through. Like I was in a church one time. One person would get a bag, everybody would get a new bag. One person would get a fur, everybody would get a fur. One person would get a new car, everybody would get a new car. And one time they're like, well, where's your new car? I'm like, I don't need a new car. Mine's paid for. I'm investing that money because I like to have paid for cars. I don't like to pay interest. I'm trying to fund my family's future, not somebody else's, right? So here's my favorite. Let me give you another example. Here's my favorite brand of purse. Okay. I love these purses, and I love the tote size. It's my favorite size. Hint, hint. All right. But if you put it on your credit card and you just pay the minimum, okay, the whatever card I had researched when I was doing this, that the minimum would have resulted in paying $691 over the time that it take me to pay that purse off. That's how much total I would pay. So for a $300 purse, what I'm really paying is $691. Okay, that's $391 of my money that went into somebody else's pocket that didn't need to. It's like buying two bags, but you only get one. Whereas if I had saved that money, okay, if I had saved that money and just saved up the $300, then I could have spent the $300 on that purse and spent the rest of the money on something else. And that's just one bag. I want you to think about all the stuff that we buy on credit and we only pay the minimum for. And if you haven't done it in a long time, it's required by law now. It's required by law now that you got to that they have to disclose how long it's going to take you to pay off if you only do the minimum. And then there should be another number there that tells you how long it is, or how much money it is that you're actually paying. I want you to take a look at that. Now I'm gonna tell you something. If you take a look at that, all right, I'm gonna do a little challenge here. If you take a look at that and you report back to me with like a video testimonial or a written testimonial where you're tagging me, I will send you a free gift. All right, I will send you a free gift that will help your investment. All right, I will send you a free class on a disc that will help your investment. But you need to take a look at that. If you're still using credit cards, take a look at what you're actually paying. I know people are like, oh, well, it's only $100 a month. Yeah, it's only $100 a month for 40 years, 39 years, I think is what it is. 39 years, $100 a month. When you could scrap it in and really get aggressive about it and pay that thing off in maybe a year and be done with it. But no, that's not what we do. That's not what we do, y'all. We pay $691 for a $300 bag. And it's time out for that. It's time for us to start living for our future. We are losing thousands of dollars every year. Some of us losing $1,000 every month with these kinds of shenanigans. And it's time for us to take our financial future into our own hand. Okay. Remember what I showed you about the story of Ben and Arthur. That $2,000 a year is only $167 a month. And he did that for 8 years, starting off when he was younger, and he retired with over $2 million. All right. And that's a story that happens all the time. Please keep your money and don't take loans for things that aren't investments. I'm not a big fan of loans anyway, right? But don't take loans for things that aren't making you money day one. All right. Save up your money, buy the purse, invest the extra that you would have paid that credit card company into your future. You got to tell your money where to go instead of always wondering where it went. Here's where it went. Here's where it went. It went into somebody else's pocket. All right. We want to tell our money where to go instead of always wondering where it went. That is how we build wealth. Now, I know I have given you a lot to think about today, so I'm going to give you some real actionable steps, and then we're going to talk about the Amazon because I totally forgot to do that, and then we're going to go into the commercial real estate for those of you who have time to stay on, all right? But here are some actionable steps for you to take, depending on where you are right now. If you have enough money to pay all your bills and you are not in debt, then I really hope that you will open up self-managed index fund, self-directed, some type of IRA. Self-directed is what you would use to invest in things like crypto or real estate, or even a child's education savings plan. Okay. If you have enough money to pay your bills, but you're in debt, I recommend that you pay off that debt and build yourself up a savings to keep from getting in more debt. Pay off that debt. If you're in a place where you cannot pay your debts and make your minimums and you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, I recommend that you stop the bleed. So stop spending money you don't have. It's time to take that bitter medicine and reach out to the creditors, admit that we've messed up with money, and we're going to do what it takes to get right and pay them off, and we just going to make it right. But from now on, we're not spending money we don't have. And if you are in the bracket of having plenty of money, then I want to encourage you to sit down with a financial advisor, look for some places where you can get a higher return on your money, and maybe consider some investment types that you may not have considered before, such as things like crypto or real estate or things like that. Okay. So all in all, let me summarize the wealth keys for you. We want to spend less than we make and save and invest the rest. The best way, the fastest way to become financially free really is to avoid debt. And I'm going to tell you now, if you're just getting started and you don't have any experience with this, investing in index funds is an easy way to make compound interest work for you. All right. So that's all I've got for you today on this topic. I'm going to scroll the comments for questions, but if you have money questions that I can answer during the next fireside chat, go ahead and send them to me at askjjc.com. All right. Give me a second. Let me confirm my free conference call and make sure nobody's got a hand raised. Oh, I never put you guys into Q&A mode. Well, let me do that. All right. So I've just put you all. Okay, so I've just put everybody who's on free conference call in the Q&A mode. And so if you have a question and you're on free conference call, do *6 to raise your hand. All right, do *6 to raise your hand, and then I will unmute you so that you can ask a question. And I'll tell you what, I want to thank those of you who are on here. I had no idea we had so many people on the free conference call because y'all were being nice and quiet. Thank you so much for muting your line. I appreciate you. I sure do. All right. So I think we're going to wrap up with investments. Let me pull up my discussion about Amazon dynamic pricing. Y'all, this is ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. Okay, hang on just a second. Ooh, it's already 10. I'm supposed to be at this bake sale. Well, we gonna teach these classes today because I was supposed to teach them last month, and then everything happened, life happened, and I never got to teach them. And I love it. I don't like to leave. I don't like to leave things hanging out there. So I like to fulfill what I said I was going to do. All right. All right. So let me switch gears here. I'm going to take down the investment slides. And I'm going to bring up the commercial real estate slides. Ooh, y'all, this is gonna be so juicy. Can y'all tell I love this stuff? Oh, I love this stuff. I love this stuff because it moved the needle forward in my life. When I thought that I had no hope left, when I didn't know how I was going to get out of all that debt, when my heart was devastated because my college sweetheart had done all this stuff and all these things came to light, and I felt like my ministry was going to be over, and I felt like my financial future was going to be over, and I didn't see any way out. These are the kinds of things that helped me get out of debt. Not necessarily that I was investing while I was $800,000 in debt, but teaching other people how. And then once I had opportunities to buy properties without actually taking on loans or going out of significant savings, then I began to realize the power of these things. So for me, these things have a very special place in my heart. These strategies work. They really, really work. All right. So as a reminder, I am not there. I should be there. And if any of the Erath County vets are watching me on Facebook, I am so sorry that I'm running behind. I will get there. I promise. But if you would like to support Erath County veterans, you can either go to Walmart in Stephenville and shop the pies, the bake sale, or you can make a paper donation, a monetary online donation at jjclink.com/ECV. All right. All right. Let me talk about this Amazon. So have y'all heard of this thing called dynamic pricing? Like if you've heard of dynamic pricing on Amazon, go ahead and drop something into the comments on this. All right. So basically with dynamic pricing on Amazon and other retailers, they're not the only ones that do it. In fact, I found the same thing with DSW. And I'll talk about that in a second. Wait a second. I forgot to open up the segment here. Because this is what I was supposed to start off with. And because we Saturdays, we try to do a Juice with JJ podcast. And I know with the summer travel and kind of setting the podcast to the side, I have like 60 episodes that have been recorded this year that have not been broadcast because I put a system in place and then I was the bottleneck and didn't realize it. Like everybody was waiting for me to get this one Juice with JJ so that all the other things that were recorded could be posted because they all had an order and a theme. And this was back in like June or July or something that I didn't do my part. And then I guess I didn't empower my people well enough, my contractors well enough, because nobody came and told me. It was kind of like, well, she didn't send this, so we're going to move on to other stuff, right? Like I didn't empower them with a cycle to come back and let me know, hey, are you going to send this? Because it's been like 3 months. Okay. So for today's Juice with JJ, I want to talk about this dynamic pricing. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous, okay? Because what it is basically Amazon and other retailers. I have experienced it through Amazon and I have experienced it through DSW, the shoe place, right? They will charge you differently based on your consumer profile. And so now, do I love Amazon? Of course I love Amazon. I'm an Amazon affiliate. So anytime I have a link, that you click on a link from me to Amazon, most of the time it's going to be an affiliate link and I get like 2 cents. But you know, your 2 cents adds up with their 2 cents. And after a while, I get free movies. So I really like that, right? But what they're doing now is they are selling things at different prices to different customers. So one customer that spends a lot of money will get the same DVD priced higher than somebody else who's always looking for the bargain. And so I went and looked this up because I have 2 different Amazon profiles. I have the one, and it's really kind of wonky. I've got to get in there and straighten it out because I had the one from when I was Wiggins, and then I didn't pay attention to something on Amazon and they shut that one down for being an affiliate because I didn't sign the child protection thing. And I just thought it was spam, like, oh, our terms of update. Okay, everybody's terms update like every day. I'm not going to read those things every day, right? Like I read them every once in a while. I know I'm bad. I shouldn't have said that out loud, but I didn't, and they shut it down. So I started a new one. So I got 2 profiles. I got one that does a lot of shopping and it's an Amazon Prime profile. And then I've got this other one that doesn't hardly do anything because if I'm going to buy something, I'm going to use the Prime. right? Because I already paid for it. I'm going to use the Prime and get the stuff here faster and have it returned faster. Okay. And so I started noticing sometimes when I go into the other account to do my affiliate stuff, then I started noticing that the prices on the things that I was looking up were different than when I actually bought them. And it was confusing me, right? And so then I came across this story. I came across this story that it was on. I first heard about it through some folks in John Maxwell team, and then I came across this story, and the story itself was actually from a couple of years ago. So this is not a new thing. Okay, now, the post office raising their prices for the holiday season. Well, that's a new thing. Like I went to go mail something last week or the week before the conference, it was one price and now it's like almost double. I'm like, whoa, that's a serious price increase. And they authorize it to try to keep them in business, right? But this is not really a new thing. So basically what it is in the past, if you were a frequent purchaser, you would get better discounts, right? You would get better discounts. You would get more passes. You would get the exclusive sales. Like how many of y'all have gotten the Dillard's or the Macy's exclusive sale, right? And you can come in and get everything at a discount, and you can even set it aside. You get a preview day. You can go in and shop and set your stuff aside, and then you can come use your coupon the day of the actual sale. I mean, like that's what it feels like to be a VIP customer, right? Well, what they're doing now is kind of the flip flop of that. What they're doing now is like, hey, you trust us. You're not going to dig too much. You're going to buy whatever we recommend, so you get to pay more. And so what that does is if you are somebody that you're not really worried about price, hey, if it's not worth it to you to save, to spend 20 minutes to save $2, I get it. But if you're strapped for cash and you're trying to build wealth and you're trying to move into a debt-free lifestyle, and those first couple of months of moving into a debt-free lifestyle can be so difficult, and it's just so, this happens and that happens and every little dime matters, then you're going to want to take advantage of this knowledge that I'm dropping with you right now so that you can actually harness this for yourself instead of giving your extra money to them. Okay, so what they're doing basically, and they're not, again, Amazon is not the only ones that do it. I've experienced it twice. I'll tell you about DSW in a second. But Amazon is not the only one that's doing this, but a lot of companies are doing it. It's just what I've experienced. I like to talk about what I've experienced. Okay, so basically what they're doing, if you have a habit of going in and when you do your search, sometimes I don't really want the cheapest result to come, because the cheapest result is probably going to break two or three times after I use it, right? And that's not always true. There's a lot of things that I get the cheapest results on Amazon, but sometimes I'm rushing. I need quality equipment. I need stuff that's going to work. I might ask for a recommendation, type in what it was the recommended, and then buy that and not worry about the price. I might do a little searching, but I'm not doing searching. All right. Whereas back in the day when I was $800,000 in debt, before I bought something that was $20 online, I probably spent 2 hours researching and making sure I got the best deal, right? Online compared to Walmart, compared to Target. Well, Target, it used to be all American made and it was worth the premium, right? But now it's like the same stuff. It's the same stuff as Walmart. It's the same luggage tag. This one costs $2 more than Walmart. You're paying a premium to shop there. That I get. If I'm going to Walmart and it's the same luggage tag, but it's $2 cheaper than the same luggage tag at Target, I get the difference because Target is a much more pleasurable shopping experience than Walmart. You're paying $2 for the premium of shopping in Target over Walmart. But that is not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is I go to Amazon on one account. I go look for a book on Amazon on one account. That book is $24. I go using my other account. This happened the other day. I go into Amazon with the other account. Now that book is $26. You say, well, that's not much of a difference. Well, it's not much of a difference unless you're doing it to 100 million clients. That's 200 million extra dollars a year, right? So we want to pay attention to these kinds of things. If you are in a position where you really need to save your money and every minute, every penny counts and every dime counts and every nickel counts and every dollar counts, then when you go to shop on something like Amazon, you probably want to take your cookies off. You want to use it like an incognito browser or something that does not identify you until you get the item and put it in your cart. Okay. And then you can log in and let them know. All right. Now what happened with DSW, this is actually funny. What happened with DSW is I got a coworker's discount card. So, DSW, if you remember, every so often they send you things. And the sad thing for me is I don't buy shoes often enough. Like I'll get in a shopping mode, I'll buy a bunch of shoes, and then it'll be like a year later before I buy more. So I almost rarely get to use the discounts because there's no DSW here, right? And so and so I got this coupon for me, and I got this other coupon. They were the same coupon. So I did not pay attention to it. I just thought, oh, well, they sent two coupons. I went in to go shopping with the one coupon, and I was finding all these great deals, right? I was finding all these great deals. And this was my coworker. And my coworker, federal civilian, I think she was maybe a GS 6 or 7. She wasn't very high up on the GS scale, and not knocking it or anything, but just kind of giving the idea of the income range. Okay, so I probably made maybe twice as much as she did, maybe a third, maybe two-thirds as much as she did. I made significantly more than what she made. Okay, and so I'm shopping, and I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time, and because you put the code in from the discount coupon. You put the code in, and the code identifies who you are on that mailer. It identifies the mailer, and it identifies the customer. So I put the code in, and I'm shopping. Well, then I get distracted and I forget, and then by the time I go back, my cart is empty. But I go back in, and I go to do it again, and it's my card now. I don't realize it because they both look the same. They both look the same, and I'm putting the stuff in, and I'm shopping. I'm like, wow, this is way more expensive, and the discount isn't as much. This was supposed to be a 40% discount. And so I go and get the card, and I'm looking at the card, and it says 20% discount. And I'm like, wait a second. Okay. I thought it was, and that's when I discovered there were two separate cards that had the same thing. And then when I looked at them close, I'm like, well, what's the difference? Then I realized the one with the 20% discount and the higher prices was me, and the one with the 40% discount was her. I said, well, now I could see if you gave her an extra discount because she's a better customer, because I'm not really that great of a customer. I don't buy a whole lot of stuff. I buy experiences, I buy food. I don't really buy stuff. Okay. I buy personal growth. But yeah, we need to pay attention to that. And then if you're in a rush, and you just want to make sure that whatever you get, it works and it's good, and you don't have to waste a lot of time researching, and your time is at a premium, then I get it. I'm not telling you to shift your value set and start wasting hours and hours researching to save $2. Okay, that's not an efficient use of your time when your time is worth $1,000 an hour. Okay. But with every penny counts, make sure you make it count, and make sure you take care of yourself and your wallet. So that's all I have on the Amazon, on the on the Amazon dynamic pricing. And again, it's not just Amazon, it's other companies as well. You want to pay attention to that, and you want to make sure that you are getting the best value for your dollar. Let's see. Let me go ahead now. We are going to switch gears. I'm going to go into the free conference call and just see if we had any questions on that. I don't see any hands raised in free conference call. Remember, if you have a question in free conference call, especially as we get into commercial real estate, if you've got a question on free conference call, then please raise your hand by doing *6. And on some providers, it's going to ask you to also hit 1. All right. Woo! We're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects. All right. Commercial real estate. When I get the screen up. I swear, I promise I'm technically astute. All right, commercial real estate 101. All right, so now I am going to cover, for those of you who are on with the excuse me, let me put it back on me. For those of you who are on when we did the lesson on investing 101, that was our Building Wealth Together annual monthly meeting. This is our DART method of real estate investing monthly meeting. So I'm kind of making a shift. It's all one big live stream just to make it easier on me, right? And not to lose people, because in the transition, whenever I try to build it separately, I leave one and come back and do another, and then I lose people, right? So we just don't want to lose anybody today. We want all y'all to come and get this goodness, right? So now I'm shifting streams. So you're going to see some slides that are very similar to what you saw in the other one, because this is technically a separate meeting. And these recordings are going to go into two separate places. One is going to go into Building Wealth Together VIP membership, and the other one is going to go into the DART method of real estate investing membership. Okay. So And then the Amazon talk is going to go on the podcast. So yeah, we multitasking today, y'all. We multitasking today. All right. So today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about commercial real estate investing. And we're going to talk about why real estate is so important. I'm going to talk about a little bit of an overview of the DART method of real estate investing. We're going to do our commercial real estate investment 101 lesson. And then we're going to give you an opportunity to dig deeper, just like with the other one. Today, I'm not launching a special class. So normally when we do these monthly meetings, I've got a special follow-on class. It's close to the end of the year. We're not launching a special follow-on class today. If you want to dig deeper, I encourage you to go to the portals. And so the portal for this one is jjclink.com/dart. That's got my Steelers code applied. My Steelers code is active this week for Thanksgiving week, and you will get 75% off of the price. So instead of paying $1,000, you'll only pay $250, and you'll get access to previous year's recording. So this is a phenomenal deal. It's not going to be open long, but I wanted to do something special for the people that attended this meeting. Whether you're attending live or whether you're listening to it a little bit later before the recordings go dark. All right. So what we're going to do now, I don't think I have upcoming events other than the bake sale that's going on right now. Okay. This is part of our Invest Without Debt series. Okay. DART is our debt avoidance. This is usually our Global Youth Initiative fundraiser. We just had Global Youth Initiative, supposed to be in October, but because of football season, we did it in November. We are now gearing up for Global Youth Initiative in April. We would appreciate that you make a donation, especially if you're going to screenshot any of the slides or if you're going to put this stuff into action. And there's two ways that you can do that there. You can do PayPal, you can do Bitly, and actually we have a Cash App now. Let me see if I can find it here. I thought I had it on here where you can, yeah, here we go. Any amount helps Global Youth Initiative. Please donate via paypal.me or Cash App. Both of them, my handle is Queen of Cashflow. Let me see if I can make that a scrolling on the bottom. So hopefully it won't take up all the thing. Okay, there we go. So that's when I teach these real estate classes, that's what I'm doing them for as to help you, of course, but they're also a fundraiser for Global Youth Initiative. So if you feel so inclined, please, please, please do donate. Okay. Building wealth together isn't about getting rich quick. It's about getting rich right. There's a lot of different ways to get rich, but what I teach in these classes is I teach ways that help people of all backgrounds and all personality styles build wealth. Okay. And so there are things that I may not teach that are already legit, but they don't work for a lot of people and a lot of variety of personalities. So then I will not teach them. The DART method of investing is investing without debt. Okay. So these classes of real estate, I may talk about debt, I may explain about debt, but it's all about debt. Now, if you were here for the other meeting, you'll know that we are moving these meetings to the third Thursday, and those meetings are always going to be free. However, we are going to have a membership class set up, and that will allow you to give open mics. So if you have deals that you want to exchange, you can go ahead and broadcast those at the meetings live in person, or you can send me an announcement. You're also going to have access to the recordings. Of course, you get to try all my new classes for free. And if you're in the meetup group, so we have 2 meetup groups. Let me tell you about these real quick. Excuse me. We have 2 meetup groups. We have the original Building Wealth Together meetup group that's based out of Alexandria, Virginia. And then we have the Build a Better Business group that's based out of Shreveport, Louisiana, Bossier City, Shreveport, Louisiana. And so both of those groups I still run. And if you're in one of those groups and you become a member, you can become a charter member or for the DART method of real estate investing, or a VIP member for Building Wealth Together. Because those charter members were like 7 years ago, right? Either one of those, I create a new title for you on Meetup that reflects your status. It's actually pretty cool because once it's there, it's there. Okay. Man, excuse me. I must need some more sleep. I must need some more sleep. So we will have sponsors. Again, we used to do all of these together as part of Building Wealth Together. We have split them out. So now the Building Wealth Together is going to be the entrepreneurial training, and the DART method of real estate investing is the real estate training. And in 2022, we expect to have some sponsors coming online. Again, this is our fundraiser for Global Youth Initiative. I support the Global Youth Initiative Northwest Louisiana, which was virtual for 2020, and 2021. And I also now have just launched Global Youth Initiative of Erath County. We did a flyby target of opportunity class last year with my son's birthday party, but this year we actually held our very first session. Okay, and we appreciate donations of any size. So now let's get to the content. All right, there are many, many different ways to profit with real estate. Okay, you can see the list here, and what we're going to talk about primarily um, in my courses are the ones that you can do if you don't have any money. So if you don't have any money and you need to get started in real estate, these things that I have shaded in green, which for those of you who are only listening on free conference call, I will name these and then I will show you which ones are shaded. But the ones that are shaded in gray, those are things that you can do that you don't have to have money in the bank to start with. You can start now, okay? Okay. And so those are things like bird dogging, wholesaling, lease to own, deal making, foreclosure consulting, doing subject to, being a virtual assistant for a real estate investor, other ancillary services. Okay. Those are things that you can just start right away without even having any money. Now, the other ones that are on the list that are not highlighted, for those of you on the free conference call, that's going to be foreclosures, short sales, note buying, apartments, commercial, tax liens, private lending, new construction, ancillary products. Okay. So the reason I didn't highlight products in the green is because in order to have a product, you got to pay to get that product made, right? So ancillary services, if you're providing a service, you can provide a service without any cost. You just provide the service and you find a way to do it without coming out of pocket. But products, you generally have to have something. Then we also have land flipping, landlording, and leapfrogging. Okay, so most of these here, that while you can do them subject to, you can do commercial subject to, you can do apartment subject to, you can do land subject to, and then you don't have to you don't have to have a big savings to buy the property. They're basically giving you the property at cost, at taking over their loan. Generally speaking, the ones that are not shaded, those are going to be ones that cost some money to start. And so what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about commercial. We're going to talk about commercial. We're going to talk about retail, office centers, things like that. Okay. Real quick about me, I've been a financial coach since 1998. I helped people get out of debt because Larry Burkett helped me get out of debt. I couldn't afford his class, so he made me promise that I would help somebody with his materials. And that's how I got my start in financial coaching in 1998. Loved it. And also loved the power of being debt free, being able to invest in the real estate, invest in the market. Became a real estate investor since 1999. And then I got lured into the debt leveraging that almost every other real estate guru teaches, and lost everything through using OPM, other people's money. All right. And then introducing debt back into our lives in the form of business debt. Okay. So when the dust settled, I was a divorcee with $845,000 of debt. And so, like Farmers Insurance, I know a thing or two about getting out of debt. And I now empower others to improve their lives through financial and real estate education. All right. Some of you have seen this picture before. My big why has always been about making sure my children never had to sleep on another moldy basement floor or go around to the stores to get their dinner with all the free samples, right? My big why has kind of the reason I do what I do, my big why, has really kind of morphed now. I feel like I've secured that level of legacy, and now I'm looking at being able to change communities. Okay, so I really do need to update this slide. Okay, the DART method, basically, I'm a person who teaches people to get out of debt and stay out of debt. And most real estate people are going to teach you how to leverage debt. And it does work. It does work in certain situations. If you are a disciplined person and you are good at building relationships, you can absolutely make that work. But for most people, all that ends up in is massive stress and massive debt. And then usually most people that come to me investing in real estate, they have lost money, and many end up in bankruptcy. And they come to me so that they can try to avoid it. But you could avoid it in the beginning by investing in real estate the way that I'm teaching to invest in real estate. And so, this debt that I had to deal with, most of that was through over leveraged real estate. And so I have created what I call the DART method, which is debt avoidance, restructure, or transfer. So basically, at the end of the day, at the end of the deal, the debt will be less. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about foundation. I gave you an example of the different ways, a slide with all the different ways that you could profit from real estate. For those of you listening on free conference call, I definitely want you to go in, get to jjclink.com/DART and get a copy of the slides, because they're really going to be helpful for you. There's all those different ways that I showed you to profit from real estate. You can profit from the property. Whether it's the cash flow of the property, the appreciation as it gets increases in value from owning it. Maybe you control the property, so you don't own it, but you can control what happens with it. You can profit that way. So those are things that are related to the property itself. There are also industries related to investing. So there's real estate services. Maybe you're a broker or a property manager. There's trades such as plumbing and roofing. And then there's all the other things that help real estate investors do what they do more efficiently and more effectively, such as home staging, which is very effective for helping a house sell for top dollar, photography, things like that. Then there are ancillary services and products, things that you bring to the property that are not related to investing, but they pair nicely. And so I've got two examples on my slide there: vending machines and ATMs, especially if you've got an apartment complex that you're working with or a retail center. Vending machines and ATMs can be a very lucrative addition to your portfolio. One of the things that I really like about real estate, despite everybody always saying you want to diversify, so I believe that it's true. You do want to diversify. One of the things that I really like about real estate is that it's one of the best ways I have seen as a financial planner in the lives of my clients for them to build and maintain wealth. It's really the only ethical and repeatable way that I have seen people who had extreme debt actually build financial independence in as little as 3 years. Now, I'm sure there's other ways out there. I've heard the testimonials from other people who've done it that fast, but the only way I've seen people who build financial independence that quick has been through real estate. Okay. There's a lot of exciting and sexy ventures out there, but as a financial planner, maybe they just don't come to me, but even when I go to the meetings and I meet these people who are supposedly doing so well, when I start picking and asking questions, I find out that they're not doing as well as I want to be doing. All right. So I just, most people I know with a lot of these different things, they actually ended up worse. So that's why I like everybody to understand that you can be successful in real estate. Now, some people are unsuccessful in real estate. It's because they did not follow the number one rule of real estate. Now, before I flip the slide, who knows? Who knows the number one rule of real estate? If you know the number one rule of real estate, go ahead and drop it in here. Let's see. Hey, all right. It's so nice to see my friend Candace May. She's got some great training to help you move forward, especially ladies out there who are trying to be in leadership. You want to get with Candace, and she can help you harness the power of being feminine, kingdom-driven entrepreneur and still getting it done. All right, with power. All right. So the number one rule of real estate. Wait, let me see if anybody on the free conference calls raised their hand. Nope, I don't see a raised hand. All right. The number one rule of real estate is you make your money when you buy. You make your money when you buy. I'm going to say it one more time for the people in the back. You make your money when you buy. Those of you who've been coming to this class for a number of years, you have heard this same 4 slides for the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, right? Because it's so important. You make your money when you buy. If you can acquire a property at 70 to 80% cost of value, that property will make you money, whether you keep it or if somebody else buys it. And that property will not just make you money if you can acquire it that low cost, but it will also be a property you can move quickly, that you can sell quickly, that you can unload quickly when life happens to you. What a lot of people do, especially a problem that you have in a commercial, what a lot of people do is they go big or go home, right? And they're gonna take out and buy a property that's like 90 to 95% loan to value rate, and then they're gonna think, oh well, it's gonna appreciate, so I'll get the appreciation. But what they're forgetting is the market goes up and the market goes down. The market goes up and the market goes down. And even in commercial, you still have vacancy, you still have repairs, you still have code issues you got to fix. Like none of these things just poof overnight, I'm wealthy, right? And so we want to make sure, and then don't let them buy into it. And you've got a $300,000 property. And you bought into it with 10% down and the rest finance, or even worse, 1% down and the rest finance, or even worse, you went to a hard money lender who's going to charge you like 20% a month, right? So I'm exaggerating a little bit there, but you've done that, and then now life has happened, and your spouse gets a dream job across the country, and you got to move in a hurry. Or one of your parents falls ill and you got to go take care of them. Life happens, and now you can't move because you're stuck with this property. A property that you acquire at 70 to 80% of the cost of value, you will always be able to unload it quickly, generally speaking, to another investor. Now, they may only pay you 80% of it, 85% of it, but you'll be able to unload it quickly. Okay. And so I'm going to skip this. I'm going to skip that because I've already talked about that a little bit. Um, when we're getting started in real estate, I will say this: when we're getting started in real estate, uh, there's one way that a lot of people get started that really helps them earn while they learn, and that's through bird dogging or wholesaling. And bird dogging is where you find properties for another investor to buy. This works with commercial as well, because a lot of investors who invest in commercial, they don't have time to do all the digging to find those sweet, juicy mom and pop deals that are going to represent the highest rates of return. Wholesaling is the same thing. You're basically finding property for another investor. But the difference between wholesaling and bird dogging is that you lock down the deal in a sales contract. And because you've taken the time to invest in your time in negotiating the sales price and locking it down in a contract, you make more of the deal. So whereas a bird dog might find a property, give that address and phone and name of the owner to an investor, and they might make 1% of the value if that investor is legit and they're gonna be honest and actually pay them. In wholesaling, you've done the negotiation so you can command a higher price. And so the last property that I bought through a wholesaler, I paid $3,000 for the property, but then I paid the wholesaler who found me the property, I paid that wholesaler $3,000. Okay. And so it was worth it to me to pay him $3,000. So my total purchase price was 6,000. Right? It was 3,000 to him and 3,000 as a purchase price, but my total break to the table price was 6,000. Well, it was worth it to me. Like, if would you be willing to pay somebody $3,000 to find you a property that made you $90,000 over the last 6 years? All day long. Like, that's repeatable success, right? So wholesaling is a very, very valuable thing. It's not my strongest cup of tea, but when I was getting started, that's how I got started, because I didn't have any money and I needed to generate some money. And so wholesaling is a way you can generate money in real estate without even having it. And yes, 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 you can bird dog and wholesale commercial property. I would recommend not bird dogging it because you have no guarantee that you're going to get paid. But if you wholesale commercial property, you got a contract that says this is the purchase price and here's how much you're going to pay me. All right. So, what is commercial property? Well, commercial property is basically anything that's not residential. So, retail buildings, office buildings, warehouses, storage, even some land can be considered commercial depending on the use case, right? And the zoning. Um, the cool thing about commercial property is you usually have a higher income potential than you would with residential properties, and there's a greater incentive for most, I say most, not all, but most tenants to protect the property, because generally speaking, when you have a tenant in a commercial property, they are using that for their business purposes, and it's a representation of them. Another great thing about commercial property is that generally speaking, you're going to have better business hours. So you don't get midnight phone calls about the toilet is clogged because their kid has stuffed a toy down it for the third time in a month, right? And plus, you get to pass on more costs to your tenants rather than you paying all the taxes or you paying all the exterior maintenance and things like that. Okay. Some of the things we have to consider with commercial property is expensive and it can be stressful. There's no consumer protections, so you really have to be careful. There's a higher initial investment in most commercial property, although if you purchase it subject to, it's more about the payments, the monthly payments, rather than an initial investment. But in commercial properties, you might also have high tenant expectations for what you are delivering to them. I drive up and down Long Street and I see these houses falling apart. They're rented out for $1,000 a month. And I wonder how on earth is somebody paying that? Well, those tenants don't have very high expectations, right? But when it comes to renting something for the business, I have high expectations that the property you're renting me for my business is actually going to help me for my business, right? And so we have to understand that. The other thing we want to understand about commercial is, while we can pass on more things to the tenants and we can make them pay more of our taxes and things like that, there's a higher standard of what you have to build things to code for commercial than residential. Okay, so to get something approved, to get your certificate of occupancy, you're going to have to make sure that you have a greater reliance on professionals who understand the codes and can pull the right permits and build things to code. So, for example, with Kingstown Family Life Center in the Pierre Bourget Mall, I wanted to build walls that separated. For those of you who came to my classes, y'all remember we had that big curtain that separated the church sanctuary part from the classes, the community classes part, and it was a curtain. I had intended to put a door there. I wanted to have a door, and I wanted to have some big plexiglass windows. So if you had a crying baby or you were a nursing mother or something, you could stay outside and still see the service, right? Like I had all these big visions and dreams. When I got the architect in there, and then I got the, and then I couldn't afford the plans, right? Like the architect was like, my plans going to cost all your renovation budget. So why don't you shift gears? And he gave me some ideas of what I could do to shift the way I wanted to do things so I could get my occupancy and get up and running. I never did get my occupancy changed to the 200 person assembly certificate that I wanted, because that would have cost me more in things that I needed to do to the property. And we just never got there. We had the 2 tornadoes. We had that flood. I mean, it was just ridiculous, y'all. And so we never got there. But he did give me some tips. But so I brought somebody else, and I said, well, I can't do everything I want to do, but at least I could build my wall. Because in the mall, if you've never had a unit in the mall, when you're in the mall, you've got a big wide open thing. Very few of those mall units have a door. And I didn't think about that when we rented the unit. I mean, it was a big unit. It was cost effective. We had space in the back that had a door. I mean, it was really an excellent location for us. And it was right by the playground in the mall. So it was perfect for a family ministry. But but when you rolled up that big rolling door, or in my case, it was an accordion door, you heard all the noise from the mall. So in almost every recording that we recorded back then, and those were some powerful teachings, y'all, whether it was a community class or whether it was the church teaching, you heard the background music from the mall. And we tried different mics, and we tried different this, and we tried different that, and nothing worked. So I bring the guy in, and I want to do it. And the thickness of the not plywood, the thickness of the drywall that I was going to have to use, the amount of the fire extinguishers, and all the different things that I was going to have to do to put up that one wall, I was like, not worth it. So we used a curtain. Now, had things worked the way we wanted them to work, and had things really progressed the way we wanted to, then yeah, eventually we would have built the wall. But you got to understand, you can't always just have your buddies come in and do something. Now, if you own the building, then you have more leeway on that, but you still have to make sure it's done to code. Okay. And there's no protections against you. So if you bring somebody in and they work on it, let me put that slide back up where it says those are protections. You bring somebody in to do some work for you, and they mess it up, and it impacts, and it's not built to code. There's no consumer protection for you. Okay. You let the buyer beware. So you really want to get educated, get the right tools, connect with somebody who's already done it. Okay. So that you can make sure that you are doing things the most efficient and effective way possible, or that you can have the options. See, that's what that architect and that friend of my husband's, who was a general contractor, that's what they did, was they gave me options. They said, here's where your budget is. Here's what the code says. Here's what the requirements are. Here's the minimum you need to get your occupancy. The fire marshal came through. He said, you gotta install exit signs. You got to do this. You got to have a kitchen sink, a utility sink. You got to have this, that. And then for me to get for me to switch from mercantile, which was only 35 people at a time, to the assembly, which would have been 200 people at a time, I was going to have to install my own individual water fountains. I was going to have different safety measures. Like, there's all these things that go into it. So you don't want to mess that up. You want to do things by the book. All right. But once you do it, I mean, commercial is very, very lucrative. All right. So the first commercial type of property we're going to talk about right now is we're going to talk about apartments. And before I move on, let me check the free conference call again, make sure there's no questions. If you've got a question on what I'm teaching, I know I'm going kind of fast, drop it in the comments, okay? You can go to askjjc.com and I will answer it, but I won't get that today. That'll be like next week or something, okay? So if you have a question today, drop it in the comments and I'll be able to answer it for you. All right. So the first one we're going to do today is we're going to talk about apartments. Apartments, many of us are familiar with apartments. These are basically multifamily units all under one roof. Great thing about multifamily units all under one roof, it maximizes your profit and reduces some risk because you've got all of those units supporting one property. So if one is vacant, the others are kind of making up for it, right? It also gives you some economy of time and repair and management costs because it's all in one thing. So So if all the repairs, if you've got an apartment of 20 units versus 20 individual houses, if repairs need to be made, it's easier to just get it all done there and in house. And it's easier to manage everything right there and in house. You don't have to go around town chasing people. If you set up your business well enough, you don't have to go around town chasing people anyway. And for information on that, you definitely want to check out Mr. Landlord. Man, I should get an affiliate link from him as many times as I've been sending him business. But one of the great things about apartments is right now apartments are hot. It's probably going to continue to be hot during what they're anticipating as being a market crash as a result of COVID and all the people who did the forbearances. And then pretty soon the courts are going to be opening back up. In some places, in some markets, they already have, and people are going to be getting evicted. People are going to be getting foreclosed on. It's going to be a hot mess. And that's what they're anticipating is going to be a hot mess. And apartments are really a good apartments are projected. None of us know the future, but apartments are projected to be a very good investment right now. One of the things about apartments is property management is really key. Whether you're doing it yourself or whether you're bringing somebody else in, you've got to control the costs of property management, and you've also got to control the process of property management. You know, when you hire a property manager, one of the things you have to realize is you got to manage the manager. And I have a property manager over one of my properties that's in Baltimore City because it is right ground zero and I don't feel comfortable managing it from a distance. My other properties are not with a property manager. But I remember when I had another property with a property manager, he got in collusion with the tenants because they hired his sister who had moved to town. They got her a job working in their office, and then they ended up scamming me for $5,000 of rent while I was in the desert. Like, how you do that and have a good conscience at night, right? And then had the nerve to ask me for a recommendation on LinkedIn. Yeah, yeah, that was not pretty. Let me tell you, that was not pretty. And I actually ended up, because he stopped communicating with me. I actually had to track down his address, which I was able to do. I was able to track down his address, and I literally camped outside his house to get my keys back. Yeah. So you have to be careful about property management, and it's not just, hiring the wrong property manager, because at the beginning he was on board with me. We had all the same philosophies, and his documents were all what I like. If they don't pay, you get a 5-day pay or quit. Don't pay, boom, file for eviction, like right away. Like, that's how I feel like you have to do, because even if life happens, if you don't hold people to their commitments, then they will realize that they don't have to uphold their commitments to you. They can use that money for somebody else. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're in my property, you need to uphold the commitment to me, because I have a commitment to make sure you have a safe and secure place to stay. And I need your money to do that. All right. So you want to make sure that you understand how to get things taken care of. You want to build a network with trades. You want to know yourself. You know, this is one of the things that was really hard for me at first is, and I have shifted a lot of my investments over to non-property investments. Okay. So things like tax liens and tax certificates and tax deeds, and I've shifted a lot of that. So I don't have as many properties anymore as I used to. And that's by design, right? But when I first started managing properties, I had a really, really hard time managing my own properties. Like, I had a really, really hard time hearing somebody's hardship story, and then still wanting to file for eviction, because, well, when I was on hard times, people helped me, right? And if people didn't help me, then I wouldn't be where I am today, and my heart just goes out to people. But this is what I found that when I was managing somebody else's properties, that, I could follow the procedure, and look, this says this says this is this. I will ask the landlord on your behalf, but if I don't get anything from the landlord, then this is what's going to happen. So if I were you, I would get the money together, right? Like, I had to find that out for myself. So you got to find out for yourself, what is your personality when it comes to investing, so that you can take the proper actions. And if you have a big bleeding heart that wants to help the world, and you have a really hard time not helping somebody who's in need, even though half the time, most of the time, almost always, they're lying, right? um if you're like that, then you want to bring somebody on your team that doesn't share that wonderful capacity for love. Not that they don't love people, not that they're not a good person, but you want to bring in somebody that can be more of that procedural person. So like I said, it took me time to be able to manage my own properties. And at first I was good at managing somebody else's properties, but I wasn't very good at managing my properties because I felt like as the owner that I couldn't do that. So then I started doing that trick of, well, I'm the property manager, right? And at some point in your business now, at some point in your business, you got to become secure in who you are and whose you are and what you're called to do, right? I'm called to equip God's people. I'm not called to enable God's people. Because when we enable God's people, when we enable our renters, when we enable anybody else, then that stifles their growth. And so until you can look at it that way, if you know you got a hard time making, filing somebody for eviction and they've been having tough times, well, then you bring somebody on your team that can help you with that. Okay. And I know some of you listening like, wow, I thought she was so nice and she's just so mean. It's not about being mean. It's about controlling the process, because there are genuinely people that are having a hardship, but you would be shocked at how many people could not pay my bills, but then they have these brand new big screen TVs. All right. So you tell me, right? And even worse, I would go, I'm not going to say that. I'll save that for the VIP offline session. All right. But there are times where we just tell on our own selves. And I've heard so many people, I won't say where or what, but I've had so many people talk about how they use their rent money to do this and do this and do that and do that, or they use their mortgage money to do this and this and that, and it'll work out. Well, it'll work out, but it's not working out on my dime. I'm not running a charity operation. I do charity operations, but I'm not running a charity operation with my real estate. My real estate funds my charity operations. All right. All right. That was more than I really meant to say. You want to make sure with an apartment, even with an apartment, you want to make sure that you're going to make your money when you buy. And that's so important because a lot of times we think, ooh, I'm going to get this apartment. I'm going to make this apartment. Oh my goodness. I'm going to be big time in now. Well, you can get in over your head real quick. And in fact, the first one we almost bought, we didn't buy it, but the first one we almost bought, we were like, yeah, we're going to convert 2 units to the manager suite, and we're going to be the property managers. And I mean, we had fallen so in love with this thing. And then when we got in there, we were like, we don't want to live here. And then it threw all our numbers off. Okay. So you really want to make sure that the numbers work for what you want to do. Let me tell you this one example that was really, really successful. Now, this example actually kind of is a little bit bittersweet for me because I was dating the guy who did this, and then we weren't dating, and then he came back into my life. And y'all, I really thought that he had missed me. And he had realized that, maybe because the conflict was he was never going to remarry. And I was like, well, I'm not trying to get married anytime soon because I'm just not, right. And I didn't tell him, but back then I really, I feel like I'm going to live according to scripture. And there were certain scriptures that kind of led me into a way of not remarrying at that time, right. And so I was okay with that, but I wasn't okay with indefinite no marriage, right? Like I was like, eventually we're trying to get to a point where we're going to be married, and he was not having any of that. So we broke up. A couple months later, he comes back to my life. I'm so excited. And do you know what ended up happening, y'all? As soon as he bought this thing, he dropped me like a hot cake. All right. So I think he only came back into my life just to get some free real estate advice. But I'll tell you what, it wasn't free for him, that's for sure. Because he spent a lot of money on me and my son. At least I got something out of it this time. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I gotta tell you. And I think he got a rude awakening. Like when we would go somewhere, I'm like, well, I needed my own hotel room. But I will say we had a fabulous time. And so I don't regret this too much. But basically what he did, he bought a 24 unit apartment near the college that he went to. The apartment was offered for $400,000, and it was $100,000 down. Okay. Now this friend of mine was really big into football at his college that he had gone to. And so he lived in another state, but he was already spending about $1,500 a month visiting the school. He would, between the hotel, the food that he and his, that he would put together, he would grill steaks and things like that. He was already spending $1,500 a month in his football budget anyway. And he wasn't just coming during football season. He would come to different events throughout the year. All right. So the mortgage of this, however it was structured, I don't remember, was about $1,500. Oh wow, that is a real typo there. That mortgage is 100. That mortgage is 1,500 a month, not 1,500K a month. Hold on. I don't even want to let that go. Hold on. Okay, let me see if I can find that slide. Wow, are you kidding me? Yeah, so it's 1,500 a month. I'm just gonna fix that real quick. All right, let's see if that fixed it on here. Nope. I got to get out of it and come back in. Okay. Well, sorry. I'm not going to be able to do it. The mortgage was about 1,500 a month, not 1,500K. And so what he's basically doing is taking his travel budget, and now that's how much this apartment was costing, but it was a 24 unit apartment. So he's got this apartment. Now, of course, we're not covering food yet, right? But watch what happens with the rent and everything. Okay. He took 2 units that he used for his hospitality suite. That leaves 22 units available. So remember, he was already spending about 1,500 a month. So all year round, he was saving about 1,500 a month, and that covered his travel for the football games and the other special events, about 1,500 a month. That's what he's paying for this 24 unit apartment. He takes 2 of those, uses that for this hospitality suite. That leaves 22 left. If you just use average numbers, because I don't know, like I said, he dropped me, so I don't know what it worked out to be. But if you just use the average in the industry numbers, average, you can expect about 25% vacancy, which means on average, you would have about 18 of those units rented. If you, in his he wanted to keep them rented, so he priced them below market at $450 per month. That is $8,100 a month, or $97,000 a year. Okay. It it doesn't take long to pay off a property. Okay. Remember, he paid 100,000 down. Purchase price was 400,000. Even with his hospitality suite, even with assuming standard vacancy and repair rates, he is still making enough to basically pay off that property and reimburse his initial $100,000 that he seeded it with in 4 to 5 years. And then after that, the property then is about 100,000 a year in revenue. On top of, now he's not spending so much to stay in the little raggedy Holiday Inn. And he now has a hospitality suite comprised of 2 units to not only host guests, but also serve as a home base when weather is bad for the tailgates and things. Do you see how amazing this is? But one of the things he had to do is he had to start off with that money. Okay. And so I want you guys to think about this as you're thinking about what can you do in the future. Now we are going to talk. Oh, actually, I think we already did subject 2 for this year. If you haven't seen my talk on how to buy a property without the down payment, and still just have somebody give you a commercial property, have somebody give you a residential property, and all you have to do is take over the payments. You want to go into the Building Wealth Together portal, and you want to get the DART thing. You can go directly there with a discount with my special link, jjclink.com/DART, and you're going to look for the lesson on subject to investing. All right. All righty. So let me put that Global Youth Initiative back up. Okay. So that's an example of a really good apartment complex deal that worked out wonderfully for him. Okay. Another type is retail and office. And I will admit that this is probably not the best time to buy retail and office. Office is really dying right now. But I expect that after the economic shakeup that's coming, the real estate shakeup that's coming, that they're predicting is coming, that nobody knows for sure, but they're predicting is coming, that retail will come back. I don't know if office will come back, but retail will certainly come back. Okay. It's just going to take some time. Okay. So if you have a business, you're already paying rent, if your church is paying rent or anything like that, you might find it more effective to buy the property rather than rent. So like the church that I was in when I first started trying to help churches find buildings, our rent was $3,700 a month. Well, we could we could buy a comparable office condo, 2 units side by side, same amount of space, would require a little bit of a renovation to take down the wall between them. But the same amount of space would have been $2,700 a month mortgage. And instead of going up $300 every year, that mortgage would have been a locked 20-year rate. So sometimes if you can get the process rolling, it's actually cheaper to buy the building than to keep renting it. Okay. Now, like I said earlier, small office and rental facilities are not really a good investment at this moment in the market, but retail especially is expected to bounce back in a couple of years. All right. The cool thing about these retail and office is a lot of them can be acquired. And I have on here in the low 1 to 2 million. This is primarily built. This slide is primarily built for the DC area, but in Shreveport and Bossier City, Louisiana, and here in Erath County, you can acquire these commercial properties for under 500,000. Okay. And the cool thing about this is a lot of this is controlled by you. If you can project trustworthiness, a lot of times these deals, they come to you and they sell to you a lot more easily than residential deals. So again, this is one of those cases where you making money isn't about what you have. It isn't about the money in the bank. It isn't about your upbringing. It isn't about what college you went to. It's the excellence of person that you are that opens up the opportunities for you. And that's why we have that personal growth program, our real success mentoring program, that helps us develop into our best selves. Because when we develop to our best selves, everything else unlocks with less effort. Woo, love it. All right, let's talk about land. Let me bring that slide up. Let's talk about land. Land is interesting. I love land. I really do. I don't have much, but I will one day. I fully expect to. Now, here's the thing about land is a lot of people buy land and they pay on it for 20 years thinking, well, it's going to appreciate one day. They're not making more land. This is a slam dunk. It's not always a slam dunk because you could buy some land and then discover it doesn't perk well and you can't build anything on it, okay? And then you buy some land and you've put all that money into it and then you find out that, you know, there's no utilities or no services or whatever it is, you're not going to profit it like you thought you were off of it, okay? So while it is a true statement that they're not making more land, you have to be careful about investing in something that's so illiquid and hard to sell in a hurry. You want to make sure that if you're buying land, that you're buying it with money you don't need, okay? And so if you are able to acquire land, and again, there are ways to buy it, and there are also ways to get it given to you for just the payments or just given to you, period. Once you get some land, there are a lot of different ways that you can profit from it. The easiest way, and this is what a lot of people do, is they just wait for the value to go up and then they sell it. They plan on selling it off later, or they plan on using it for recreational later, but that's not really profit. Another way that you can profit from the land is to divide it out, have it platted, and then have a developer come in and do the work, or you could facilitate that. Like you can connect the land with the developer. And this is how you can make money in real estate. Even if you don't have the money to buy the land, you know somebody that's got land and you know somebody that likes to develop and you connect the two. Now you have a transaction engineering fee, right? Right? You're facilitating this transaction and you can easily command 1 or 2% of the purchase price. Deal. It's a win-win-win. A win for you, a win for the person with the land, and a win for the person that develops the land. All right. So don't overlook those deals. You can also do what's called land speculating. Now, with land speculating, you're basically projecting that a change is coming, that a profitable change is coming for that land. So you are, like, for example, I was at the city council chambers the other day, and they walked us through some of the economic development things. So here in Erath County, they have a projection, and you could go out the plans of what's projected over the next 10, 20 years. All right. I forget the exact timeline, but it was basically far out. When I was in Prince George's County and I was wanting to buy property there, you could go to the meetings, you could go look at the land records, and you could see the projections of what they were projecting to do. My ex-husband and I were going to buy a piece of land that had a billboard on it. And we were really excited about that because, first of all, we eventually were going to hope to build like a small ministry building or something on that land. But in the meantime, it was already a leased billboard. Comcast was spending X amount of dollars on it. And so when we priced it out, we're like, oh, this is affordable. It's a good return on investment. Let's go. But when we went and did our economic development research, we found out that the city of I don't know if it was the city or the county, but basically what was going to happen is Prince George's County was going to take our Brandywine Road that we lived off of and where this property was, and they were going to cap it off so you couldn't get from the main artery. I think it was Branch Avenue. I don't remember exactly. It's been a while since I've driven it, but you couldn't get off that main artery onto that anymore. They were going to cap that off. And they were going to make that I'm pretty sure it was Branch Avenue. They were going to make that an overpass. So there was a little ice cream store and there was all these other different things. Now they're building some things there now. I think they're building a huge regional medical center, but this was 15 years ago. Okay. We looked at that and we were like, Well, if you're going to do that, the plans for the road is going to eclipse the billboard. And and if you cap that off, people aren't going to, there's not going to be as many people going, because what all the people in the backwoods are going to do is they're going to go take this road and go north. They're going to take this road and go south, whichever way they need to get. They're not coming here anymore. So yeah, you're going to have people driving on the main artery, but that billboard is not well situated for it. And that land was certainly not going to be able to be usable for a ministry. So you want to be aware of what's coming down the pike if you're going to invest in land. That's what I mean by land speculating. You're seeing if a change is coming soon, and whenever the land is going to increase in price, then you're going to go for it. Okay, so I gave you an example where doing that research resulted in us not buying a deal. But let me tell you about the person we were going to buy that from. That person who we were going to buy it from, they had done their research and they bought that property. They were selling it for $1 million, but they had bought that property for 100,000 back before all of these plans were publicly announced. They bought it. The plans had been announced in the council meetings, in the county meetings, or whatever meetings they had, the economic development meetings that they had for Brandywine, Maryland, Prince George's County. It had been out there for years, but it hadn't been announced publicly like, hey, construction's about to start. So what they had done was they had bought up all the little properties really, really cheap. And then their intent was to start. So they bought up all these properties. Now that one was kind of a bust for them, but they had bought up all these other little properties that were along the corridors that were going to be created when they capped off that main road. Okay, they're capped off the main road, so people couldn't drive that way anymore. So people, instead of to get to the, I'm not drawing. Let me draw it. Let me draw it for you, because I'm doing hand waves. I'm doing hand waves on the thing, and the people on free conference call can't even see it. So basically, you had a road, and it went to a much larger road. Okay, and what they're doing is they're capping off that smaller road, so you can't connect anymore. And because there were a lot of backwoods people, they were building new connectors. So if you wanted to go north, you needed to get on there and you would slowly diagonally make your way. If you're going to go south, you would go the other way, but you weren't going to go straight anymore. You were going to go off to the sides to get to where you needed to go. And so what these people had done, and again, if you're watching our free conference call, please, please, please go on there so you can see what I'm drawing out. What these people had done is they had bought up all this land. They had bought up all these little pockets of land, all these little parcels. And I'm drawing parcels along the diagonal routes. And they had bought some parcels along that route anyway, but they had basically bought up all these parcels. And now what's happening is they're building this regional medical center. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And so now guess who's selling off that land to all these different people that are wanting to make money? They bought all these things for like $50,000 to $100,000 a pop. They're selling them for millions. Okay, that's land speculating. Very powerful and profitable when you have the time and energy to do the research you need to make it work. Okay. Another thing you can do with it is to rent out space. So, like if you have a big piece of land, one thing I've seen here is that people have RVs here in Erath County. I've seen a lot of RV and boat storage. And I was like, oh, okay, if I get some land, I can see, and I don't see any empty stalls. So that tells me that people need them. Another big thing that's here right now in this market, Erath County, is there's a very limited supply of climate controlled self-storage. And so, it's a limited supply because whenever somebody builds a new one, the units fill up really quick. And that's not going to last always. I mean, eventually you're going to get to a steady state, but right now there's room for expansion. So if I had a piece of land and I was going to build something on it, I'd probably go with an RV or boat storage, or I'd probably go with a self-storage. I'm not right now because I've got other goals, but that's what I would do. Okay. So that's land. Now, we talked about a couple different things. We talked about land, we talked about apartments, we talked about retail, we talked about all these different things that are, commercial. And again, commercial is anything that's not residential. So it could be industrial, warehouse, things like that. Okay. What I want to do real quick is I want to talk about finding these properties. Okay. So when it comes to finding commercial properties, actually, let me take a pause. Okay, and make sure nobody on free conference call is got a question. Okay, so when it comes to finding these properties, I actually recommend the same thing as with residential until you get experience. Like I always think it's hilarious. Like I go to these real estate meetings and somebody invariably is like, oh, I've got property here, and I'm working on property here. I'm working on this deal over here. And it's almost like, ooh, see, look, I'm so amazing as an investor because I got all these properties out of town. Well, that's great if you're experienced enough to make that work for you. A lot of people lose a lot of money that way because they don't know the intricacies of the neighborhood. And a case in point, we almost bought something that we would have lost money on. And thankfully, we knew enough to ask somebody who lived in that area to kind of walk us through it. And so, this particular property, I think it was in South Carolina, it was a rental property, and what we were going to pay for it was way less than the tax value. So most jurisdictions, you can go online, look up the tax value of it. And I don't know if it was a fourplex. I don't remember exactly the details, but it was something that we were getting ready to buy, and it was going to be a big jump for us. So I'm pretty sure it was some level of commercial. But we were going to buy this thing, and it was less than the tax value. Well, in most jurisdictions, the tax value of the property is already less than the real value of the property. Like if you're going to sell a property for $500,000, well, the day you sell it, that tax value gets set at $500,000. But over time, next year it's worth a little more. Next year it's worth a little more. Next year it's worth a little more. And most jurisdictions don't keep up with the value of the property. Now I had one that like doubled all of our taxes because it just doubled everybody's property value because we had the economic crash and they weren't getting any money. So they just did what they could. And we all fought that, right? But most of the time, your tax value of the property is going to be less than your sales value of the property. But in this particular market, it was the other way around. In this particular market, the tax value of a property was generally 25% more than the sales value. So we thought we were getting a good deal, but we would actually have been overpaying. And that's where research comes in. And this is also, if you don't have the kind of network to do real boots on the ground, real research, especially with commercial where there's no residential protections, I highly recommend that you start close to home and you find something you can afford. You can absolutely afford to invest in commercial property. And if you can't, there are ways to safely and within the confines of the regulations of the SEC for you and a couple friends to get together and invest and pool your monies and invest together. But let me just do a thing. You want to be careful who you partner with. And you want to make sure you do things the right way, okay? And so we can talk offline about that. I got a whole class on it. It actually includes a scholarship to Alan Cowgill's detailed class on this. So when people take my private lending class, first you go to his private lending class, and then we talk about private lending from the position of being a person of color in the South. Okay, so it's his class with my flavor. Okay, so if you're interested in that, you want to do it the right way because you do not want to go to jail. We are too cute to go to jail. All right. So in finding commercial property, you can seriously do the same thing as in residential, which is driving for dollars. And if you've never driven for dollars before, that's one of the lessons that I have. That's one of the lessons I have. And when you go out to jjclink.com/dart, it's going to take you to the real estate class, and you're going to find a driving for dollars 101 in there that's going to show you how. Like we actually show you how you find these properties, how you do your research, how do you determine the value and all of that. Okay. So you want to get out there and drive because in most places that you live, the best and juiciest deals, they are not publicized. And even more importantly, many of the best deals, they're not even deals yet. They're not even for sale yet. They're not even for sale until you send the postcard or you send the letter or you knock on the owner's door and you're like, hey, me and my family, we're trying to improve our lives and we want to do this thing. And I'm retiring from the Air Force and I really want to buy this property. And are you looking to sell? I noticed that you're getting to have it about 20 years. You're almost fully depreciated. Maybe I can help you find a 1031 exchange so you won't have to pay taxes on it. Like you can say these things. And in the more advanced class, we do have the script for those things. So actually, it's in the wholesaling 101. We have the scripts for how you can do all this. The driving for dollars 101 and then the wholesaling, they kind of go hand in hand. To find the property and how do you lock it down? I mean, these are deals. They're not even on the market. The person's maybe toying with the idea of selling, but it hasn't become real to them yet until you show up, until you send the letter, until you make the phone call. All right. So that's why you want to really, really look at trying to find the properties yourself. Now, when it comes to commercial property, excuse me. When it comes to commercial property, I am a big fan of driving around, especially when you're getting started. You kind of want the smaller things, you know. I know one person was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going after this 160 unit apartment." I'm like, "Okay, good for you, but I'm going after this 12 unit over here. I'm going after those fourplex over here. I'm going after this 24 unit over here because those are things that are affordable. They're in my local town. I can build relationships with people to help me keep the maintenance costs down. You know, I can build relationship with trades to help me keep maintenance costs down, and that's going to be more profitable for me. And you're going to chase after this deal and spend a lot of time and money and energy, and then it may fall apart. And a lot of times that's what happens. And you've already spent a lot of time and energy and money when you could have just gone an easier route. You could have got an easier route and you could have made some money and then got an easier route and made some money and got an easier route and made some money and then pull that money together and then go after the big thing, right? But other people, they like to joke about that. Oh, well, you know, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do that. It's going to take too long. Well, do you want to do it and be successful? Or do you want to do it and end up in debt like everybody else and end up filing bankruptcy like everybody else and end up looking at the one or two people that actually made that strategy work for them and wish you could be like that person and beating yourself up that you can't when most people can't. Okay. So what I'm teaching you is something that most people could do. And you can drive around and you can also look in these different websites that we have. LoopNet, I think LoopNet just got bought out. But I think it's still loopnet.com. Uh, Hold on. I'm gonna show you an example of listing. Yeah, it's still there. It's still there. I'm going to show you an example of stuff that I've pulled from LoopNet, but I think they just got bought by somebody, by one of the bigger ones. But you've got some websites here that you can use to really research where the commercial properties that are for sale are. You're going to also want to check with a lot of the real estate houses to find agents that work with commercial. Some of those agents will work with commercial, but they may not have the commercial brokerage license. And so they may not be advertising it. So you want to build relationships there. A lot of banks have a commercial division. And, you know, some banks will actually list their foreclosed commercial properties online. Now, one thing that's not on this slide that I probably should have put is that you can also, I've been playing with my hair on talk. Sorry, y'all. One one thing that I didn't put on the slide that you can also look into is you can go to your county or parish, and a lot of times they will have adjudicated properties. And many of them are moving to systems like Civic Source that'll handle it and unload the adjudicated properties for them. But a lot of times they will have these properties and you can actually get in there. Adjudicated properties are properties that they did not pay the tax on year after year after year after year, and no investor came in and bought the tax. So after about 5 to 7 years, depending on your jurisdiction, it might even be 3 years. After a while, the property says we're going to just, I mean, the county or the parish says we're just going to sell this off to the next person who pays for our fees and taxes. Is then sell it, not have a lien or certificate against it, but just outright sell it. You buy it, it's yours. Okay. And so that can be another way that you can move forward when it comes to these properties. All right. There are a lot of properties in your neighborhood that you have probably never even noticed. Like when I go driving, I'm in Erath County now. I'm in a very small town called Stephenville. I think there's like 20,000 people in the entire county. Okay. And so I think that's only when college is in session. But there are, even now when I drive around, I'm always finding new properties that if I had the capacity that I would be researching. I'm in a doctoral program and I'm behind, so I'm not. Okay, but those are the kinds of things that I see all the time. And so you want to look, you want to keep your eyes open. You're looking for outdated strip malls, outdated office buildings. You want to look for good properties, but maybe somebody else built a bigger, better deal nearby, and that's where everybody's flocking to. But this other property is still good, but now that poor landlord, that owner, is hurting because everybody's flocking to the bigger, better deal, right? You might see some apartments. I see that a lot around here. I see some apartments that could use some tender loving care, and you can put that money into it and you can raise those rents and turn that property around and make it more profitable. So again, I encourage you to learn how to drive for dollars and just get out there and see what's around. You will find so many more opportunities to get started in commercial that you never even realize. It's a very, very powerful concept for you to do. And like I said earlier, many of these juicy properties are not for sale. They're not even a deal until you make them a deal by being in the right place at the right time, you know? And then we talked a little bit about encouraging someone to make it a deal. One of the very popular ways of motivating somebody who wasn't planning on selling to go ahead and sell is if their property is approaching the 20-year point and they've used up all the tax depreciation, and then you help walk them through getting that 1031 exchange. A 1031 exchange basically means I'm buying this property that is the same kind of property that I had just sold. And I'm doing this sale and this exchange. There are legal repercussions of the and legal rules of the how, what kind of property. If you're selling this kind, it has to be this kind. You have to do it in a certain number of days. There's some legal things, and a CPA can help you make sure you stay on the right side of the law. But basically, the bottom line is you're buying a property that's just like what you just sold, and now you don't have to pay the tax. So if I bought a small apartment complex, when I first got into the Air Force, and I bought it for $100,000, and now I'm selling it for $1 million 25 years later, and I go and buy another equivalent small apartment, I start my tax depreciation on that, getting all those juicy tax deductions again, but I don't have to pay tax on that $900,000 of growth that I otherwise would have had to pay tax on. That's the beauty of the 1031 exchange. We don't have time today for me to dig more into deeper to that, but a CPA who is familiar with real estate investing can help. You want to get one that's familiar with real estate investing, okay? Because everybody's heard of it, but not everybody can do it the best way. All right. All right. So I've got a script for you. You can remember, if you're taking screenshots or anything, I encourage you to make your donation to our Global Youth Initiative. You can do that through a PayPal or a Cash App donation to Queen of Cash Flow. That's me, Queen of Cash Flow. Okay. So this is an example of a script. Hey, I noticed you bought the property almost 20 years ago. That means, what does that mean? We've already talked about it, y'all. That means your property is almost fully depreciated and you'll incur a huge tax hit if you sell. I can help you do a tax 31 exchange to sell the property and not have to pay capital gains tax. How does that sound? Okay, so that's an example of a script that you can use. Okay, once you find a candidate property that looks like something you might want to buy, you're going to want to do your research. You want to find out who owns it. Is it for sale? A lot of times things are for sale and they're not. There's no sign outside of them to let you know. You want to find out when they bought it. How well is it managed? What are the tenants like? Are there empty units? If there's a lot of empty units, why? If there's no empty units, why? What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? One thing that I like to do, and I don't know how I'm going to do that going forward, but in the past, being military, I'm always moving, right? So I used to pose as a potential renter to do my research, because we were always moving around. And even sometimes if I was in a place and I got in, because you have to get somewhere to live, and you don't have time to do a whole lot. They give you 8 days to find a place, right? Sometimes I would get there, and then after a year, I realized, no, I don't want to live here. I want to live somewhere else. So for me, I always had a legal excuse to be looking for a place, and just apply and see what their processes are. See how they treat their tenants. See how things go. A lot of times if you show up and you're just nice to people, they'll tell you a lot about what's going on in that property, and you don't have to do anything deceiving or dubious. All right. So once you've identified a property that you think you might like to make an offer on, you want to make sure that you have the end game in mind. So you always want to have an exit strategy, whether you're going to buy it and rent it out yourself. Are you going to finance it through the bank? How are you going to pay for this? Now, I'm not a big fan of debt, but these are some things that people use to pay for it. Okay. So you want to make sure you know how you're going to finance, pay for, or otherwise acquire this property. Okay. And you're going to want to know what you want to do with it on the back end. Okay. That's what having an exit strategy is all about. One of the easiest ways to improve your return on investment is to improve the quality of property management. Okay. All right. All right. So let's see. We've got some other ways to find commercial properties. You can look at the rent listings, because maybe the landlords are tired. You could do the same trick with residential, where you take the listings and you age them. Okay, so maybe I see on a website that these, maybe I go on to LoopNet and I see that these 4 properties are available, and I take that printout, put it somewhere for 2 months, call them back. Maybe it's not on LoopNet anymore, but call them back and find out, is it still available? Well, maybe it's still available, but they ran out of time with their realtor and decided not to renew with their realtor or their broker. And so then maybe what they do is they still would like to sell it, but now they're just exhausted, and you swoop in and save the day. And when you swoop in and save the day, you also get a big payday. All right. So you can do that with the listings for rent, for sale by owner, the commercial listings. But please, please, please remember, there's no consumer protections for commercial real estate. So whatever you buy, you buy. You stuck with it, you stuck with it. All right. Let the buyer beware. Now, what I'm going to show you is how to read a commercial listing. And I understand that we are way out of time, and my Erath County veterans folks are probably going to be like, where are you? You said you were going to be here. And so I'm going to have to wrap this up pretty quick. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And if we run out of time to do, well, hold on. Let me just see how many slides I have left, because I want to do this justice. Okay, I think we can get this done by noon. I think we can do that. I think we can do that. And again, I'm sorry, I really did not realize how long this was going to be. I updated these slides. I didn't update all of them, but I updated this part of it, and I think I added too much. Is this too much? Is this just too much, or is it just right? If it's just right, go ahead and drop in the comments that this is just right. This is just what you needed, to feel more confident that you could go out and do this thing. Okay. All right. So here's a listing. This is an example of a listing. This little bit down here, this picture, and next to the picture you see it says 1083-1103 SF. That lets you know that there's 2 units in there. And we know that because it says 2 spaces. Now, if it said 3 spaces, then you would know that there are 3 spaces, and the range of the square footage of the spaces is the 1083 to 1103. So if it said 3 spaces instead of 2 here, or if it said 4 spaces, it could be one is 1083, one is 1103, one is 1085, one is 1095. Okay, that's how you would read that. Then you'll see below here it says 1330 to 1850 square foot per year. Now, I have assumed up here in my example A that the 1083 square foot is the smaller one, that is commanding the lower rent. Okay, but we'll talk about in a second whether or not that might be accurate. But just so you know how to calculate a rent, it's by square foot per year. So it's 1330 times the 1083 square foot, and that's your total price for the year. You divide that by 12 to figure out what it is per month. Why they don't just say that, I don't know, but they usually don't. They do it in price per year. Okay, and so price per square foot per year. So here you have the same example with the 1103, assuming that that's the 1850. You times the 1103 square foot times the 1850 per square foot per year. You divide that out by 12 months in a year, and now you've got $1,700 a month. That's about what you can expect, okay, to rent in this section here. Now, I've assumed that because usually the smaller and the upstairs are going to cost less, but it really, it really could be that the smaller unit could be downstairs and have the higher rent because it's downstairs. I never looked into it, so I really don't know. All right, this is another one that came off of LoopNet. This is when I was looking to move my Kingstown Family Life Center, or my Kingstown Bible Study in Virginia. I was looking to move it out of my basement and into a property. Okay, we found these here. So you can see here on the top of this, and for those of you who are listening on free conference call, I'm sorry that you can't see these. I really don't think I'm able to describe them in good enough detail, unfortunately. So you're going to want to take a look at the slides for this part if this is something that interests you. All right. So here you can see on the slide, I've got whatever search I did in that zip code, 22315. I did that search, and here we have Lansdowne Center. We have one that has no picture in the hayfield. We've got Kingstown Town Center, and we've got Kingstown Town Center again. Now, I've got arrows to the Hayfield Shopping Center because it says, but first of all, there's no photo, right? Center is located on a highly traveled road Giant Anchor, as well as Subway, McDonald's, Crest Cleaners directly on Telegraph Road. And so I've traveled enough down Telegraph Road. I think I know where the Hayfield Shopping Center is. But when I see a listing like this, it's either a brand new listing or they know fair, full, and well it's not that great. And I wish I could remember. It's been 6 years now since I lived in Kingstown. And then I moved to Springfield, and then I moved. Y'all know the rest of the story. But it's been a few years. I wish I could remember. I remember driving past it. I was like, wow, this is a real dog. Okay, but they wanted way too much for it. Okay, for what it was. And so when you see a listing like this where they're not telling you who's in there, they're not telling you who's in there. But if you look above here, Lansdowne is very clear. Hey, we're anchored by CVS. They put a big old picture of CVS right there, so you know it's true. We are anchored by CVS. That means you're going to have a lot of foot traffic. That means you can afford to pay our higher rent, okay? So you want to pay attention to stuff like that. Now, if we scroll down, you see some more. And I'm going to ask you, which of these properties would you think that I would pursue? And again, if you're able to be interactive, go ahead and drop it in the comments. If not, that's okay. But basically, you see some brand new office centers here. And then you see this Richmond Highway office retail building, okay? And it says hard lit corner in highly desirable BRAC Route 1 corridor. So that was the economic development of that, US 1, that Richmond, not Richmond. What I think it was Richmond Highway, whatever it's called, that US 1 where the Reagan National Airport and all that stuff is. All right, but this isn't right there, of course, obviously. But easy ingress and egress, high visibility. Okay, so when you look at these, a lot of times what we think we want to go for is we want to go for the shiny new stuff. And you can see here, I put next to them, that's not something I'm interested in. These are big corporate developments. They're not only not suitable, no. You could make them work. You could buy an office condo in here. You could rent an office condo in here and sublet it out if they'll let you, and really make it work. You could turn it into a working space where people rent your office space, or they rent your what do you call it, like your conference room, like a co-work or a rework space. How you could do something like those kinds of shiny pretty office buildings. Those are perfect for something like that, because you got the prestige of the nice building, and you're renting the unit, and people can buy, they can rent or buy offices in your building, or they could rent out your conference center when they need it. Those properties are excellent for something like that with respect to commercial real estate. Okay, but for what we're doing today, I was like, well, that's not really where I'm going. Now you've got this one down here that's not super brand new. It's not that old, but it's not brand new. Um, this 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 property here, Kingstown Ridge, it had some renovations, and I put down here maybe, okay. But then you look at that Richmond Highway office building, and I say bingo, because I already see in this picture things that I can do to raise the value of the property, that are things that I can do that don't take a whole lot of time and energy and money. A little bit of cosmetic on this will go a long way. Okay. So let me dig a little deeper into why I'm doing that. Okay. The reason I'm picking these two to pursue further is because if you look at the spaces that they have, you see this wide range. They've got 3,500 to 78,491 in 3 spaces. It also says negotiable, right? So perhaps they need to fill the space, and they've just went through all the trouble to get their certifications and do all these new things, but maybe now they really need to fill the space so that they can show they are profitable, which means they may be willing to work with me. Okay. This one down here, the reason that I put that is because, first of all, it needs some serious updating. But in serious updating, you can probably get away with some quick cosmetic return on investment. So you can cut away these trees, you can beautify the parking lot, you can install some lighting. I don't remember if this property had, I don't think this one had any leaking or anything. Like, you can go in the stores and you can take a look around and see how they are and see how they operate. I've done that a lot of times, and I always feel bad when I go into a business and they're failing. They are failing rapidly, and their landlord is about to evict them. and they don't even realize it, and you go in there because you just want to get some intel on the landlord. And I used to feel so bad. So now I offer them development, but you go into the stores, you look around. How well is it being maintained? Are there leaks? Are there all these other things? What, a lot of commercial properties the tenant is responsible for, but there are also things the landlord is responsible for. And at the end of the day, if it's my property, I'm going to make sure that the roof is good. Now I'm going to charge you for your part of it, but I'm going to make sure that the roof is good. I'm going to make sure that my investment is solid. I'm not going to have you tearing up my investment because you're too cheap to make the repairs because you're just renting, right? So these are things that you want to think about. But like in this little one, I can already see that. You can go in there. It's the perfect size for what I wanted to do at the time. Okay. And so these are the kinds of questions, and things that you would think about. What is going to get you money? What is going to get you money quickly? Okay. We're not talking about what's going to be, 10 years from now, what's going to be, the bet. We're looking at what is going to get me in the game now. And what can I do now that is going to move the needle forward in my life? All right. So before we wrap up, we do want to talk about valuing a commercial property. And this is something that I really need more time with you on, but I know I just don't have the time. We have already been broadcasting for almost 3 hours, and I'm really, really appreciative of those of you who were here. We talked about Amazon. We talked about investing 101, and now we're talking about commercial 101. So if you've been a trooper the whole time, my hat is off to you. I really do appreciate you. But we are going to have to wrap up fairly soon. All right. So let me take a sip and then we're going to talk about this. All right. When it comes to valuing a commercial property, there are some things that we want to know so that we at least can talk some of the lingo. Commercial property is generally valued by capitalization rate, which people call cap rate. It's also called the return on investment, ROI. Your cap rate is your ROI. It's the annual return you get for what you put in. How fast you get back your initial investment is what that cap rate represents, and it's really also a determination of what you're getting out compared to what you put in. So a really easy way to calculate ROI is profit over cost times 100%. Okay. That's just an easy, quick way to do it. A lot of people are very creative in their way of calculating ROI. So, for example, some people will say, well, I leveraged other people's money, so I'm going to show a return on investment only using the money I put in. Which, if you had 3 friends get together and you all put in $100,000 each, and you're making $50,000 a year off that property, well, your overall return on investment would be your 50 over the 300. But if you're only calculating your cost, then it's 50 over 100. That's a whole different number. Okay. Some people look at annual versus equity. They look at the equity you're getting. I personally don't prefer to do that because equity is not cash. And at the end of the day, I like things that are comparable and measurable. And I can compare cash from this property to cash from that property. When you strip out the repairs, you strip out the taxes, you strip out all those extra things, the vacancies, you can compare one property to another property based on the cash return on investment. Okay. Another creative way you want to watch out for is that some people will say, okay, well, I flipped a house and that was 3 months and I made $50,000. So if you invest with me, if you fund my next deal, I'm not going to tell you that deal took me 3 months and it's the only one I did last year. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you figures that assume I kept these deals going because you're going to give me your money. I'm going to be able to do more of these deals. And so I'm going to take the 50,000 I made in 3 months and I'm going to equate that to making 200,000 in a year. And then I'm going to calculate that and tell you that's my return on investment. Was it a return on investment for a very short time period? Sure. But is that the actual return on investment for the last year? No. So you really want to understand when people are talking about return on investment, you want to be careful not to be too creative. And it's really going to depend on you. Like I have a property that I wanted to sell and it's pulling in $900 a month. It's been pulling in $900 a month from the same tenant for the last 6 7 years. Okay. And so that I wanted to sell it. And they're like, well, gee, somebody in California is willing to accept a 4% cap rate. They're willing to pay $150,000 for that property. But between me and you, that property's only worth maybe about 50 or 60,000 because of where it's located and the situation under which the operation of that town is. And so me as an investor with a following, and I intend to be a big national name one day, I don't have the kind of conscience that would allow me to sell that to somebody in California sight unseen for 150,000. Now, would they be happy with their property if it kept putting out the 900? Sure they would be. But, and I wouldn't be opposed to doing that deal as long as they were happy with it. But what happens more often is these kinds of properties are peddled to new investors who don't really understand what's going on, and then they get left holding the bag. Okay, so we want to make sure that what we're doing is ethical and repeatable. And I'm not saying don't sell it at a low cap rate to somebody else. If they're willing to pay it, take the money. But let's be ethical about what we do, and let's not take advantage of people just because they are live in an area that's super expensive, and they're more desperate to find properties. Okay, all right, I'm going to give you some more examples of return on investment. Okay. So in this case, the property was $450,000 to buy, took 50,000 to fix, rents for 3,000 a month. The acquisition cost of this property is not the 450,000 it cost me to buy it. The acquisition cost is the amount that it cost me to buy it, as well as to fix it, as well as to get it occupy certificate of occupancy so that I could rent it out, which in this case, that's rolled into the fixing cost. So my total acquisition cost is 500K. My income on average is about 3,000 a month, which is 36,000 a year. A traditional calculation of the return on investment would have me take that $36,000 a year and divide that by the 500,000 acquisition cost and multiply that by 100%, which results in a cap rate of 7.2%. A lot of people would be very, very happy with 7.2%. Okay. Here's another example, okay? This is the one where I told you about leveraging. I leveraged other people's money. I only put 100,000 of my own into the deal, and I don't have to pay them until 2 years later when I sell. So my acquisition cost isn't the 500,000. It's really only 100,000 of my money. The income stays the same. Now my leveraged return on investment, my leveraged ROI is now 36%. See how that works? So for me, I'm getting a higher return on investment because I'm leveraging other people's money. Now that does open up a whole nother can of worms, and you have to be really careful about that because I just don't like debt. All right. I'm just gonna be upfront with you. So you want to make sure you structure that deal the right way that it's a win-win-win for everybody. Okay. So when you buy into a property or you private lend into a property, make sure you know the true return on investment. Make sure they're not pulling the wool over your eyes. Now, I gave you this kind of an example verbally earlier. Now you can see it in person. We've got a flipping property, and we calculate the traditional ROI is 67%. But if the deal took 6 months, what some investors will do is they'll kind of extend that out. They're like, hey, I could use the acquisition cost to do more flips. So instead of one every 6 months, I could do two every year. That brings me up to 133%. Not really. But I just want you to be aware. ROI can be calculated multiple ways. You got to make sure that you know your numbers. Now, I have the different rules of real estate investing. The number one is you make your money when you buy. Number two is that the secret to your success is other investors. And number three is it's not about the property. It's about the numbers. It's about the numbers. If the numbers work, then the property works. If the numbers doesn't work, then the property doesn't work. Okay. So here is another example of a property. I never did figure out what the deal. I kept feeling like there's got to be something wrong with this property, and I never did figure out what it was. But this was basically a 10,000 square foot unit upstairs that was subdivisable down to 2,000 square foot, and they were selling it at $160 per square foot, which basically means 160 times 10,000 Basically, now you've got 1.6 million. That's what they're selling. This was an office condo, and they were selling the top half of this building for 1.6 million. However, they were also willing to rent it out, and fully rented. The rents were 20, what they were listing, not just something I made up, but what they had listed in the marketplace was renting at $28 per square foot. Well, when you calculate that out, that results in 23,000 a month, which is about 280,000 a year. The projected ROI on this property would be that 280,000 divided by the 1.6 million times 100%, which takes you to 17.5%. Personally, I would take the anticipated vacancy and other costs out of it, but that's determined by how you want to do it. Okay, that's really up to you how you want to calculate it. All right, so cap rate is basically just the traditional calculation of ROI. Your net profit, not any of these creative things, okay? But your net profit, your net profit over your cost. And that's how all these different institutional and like your our real estate investment trusts and all these different big name, big time commercial investors compare the investments. They compare them by the cap rate. They make sure the money works. The cap rate lets the investors know how much you're paying based on how much you're paying and how much you're getting back. Okay. So I think I talked about this, but just to make sure, your net is what's left after expenses. Okay. So it's not just what you take in, it's what you take in minus what you got to pay for taxes, what you got to pay to maintain the common areas, what you got to pay because of this or that. And if you've got to advertise, all of that, you take all of that out, and that gives you your net profit. Okay. So if you had a property that's generating 70,000 a year in net income, you can work backwards to see what an investor would pay. So some investors might be willing to, they want a 10% cap rate. Some investors, especially those in hot markets like California, where everything is very overpriced, they're willing to accept a 5, sometimes even a 4% cap rate. At a 10% cap rate, the property that's making $70,000 a year is the most an investor will pay for it is $700,000. An investor seeking a 5% cap rate would be willing to pay up to 1.4 million for the same income generating property. It's about what you're willing to accept. So this is one of those things that if you would like more information on, I definitely would like to go into more detail with you. But this is how you're going to get yourself uh, in the discussions, to get in the room, okay? Because what's a good cap rate for one person may not be a good cap rate for somebody else. Like I said, I had that one property and I didn't have a good feeling about the wholesaler who was like, "Yeah, I can get this property sold for $200,000 for you." And I'm sitting there thinking, it's not worth that. I understand the cap rate thing, but it's not worth that. A good cap rate is going to depend on your circumstances. A real estate investment trust, they're going to be comfortable with 4 to 5%. Investors from highly inflated markets like California, like Los Angeles, they're going to be comfortable with 4 to 5%. Your stock market averages 8 to 12%. And so the reason these other corporate or other investors might be okay with a little one is because it's backed by a property that's most likely not going down in value. Okay. But for me, if I'm trying to build wealth quickly, well, I'm trying to get at least what's in the stock market, if not more. Okay. So you probably want to find cap rates, which is at least at 9 or 10%, to make sure that all your hard work is really being profitable as quick as possible. All right. Now, I think I already covered this in the example, so I'm going to skip past that. And I did not talk about net leases, so let me go ahead and do that real quick. All right. So one of the cool things about commercial, I've said a couple times, is you can pass a lot of stuff on to the renter. You can even pass on your management reserve, right? So a lot of times you're going to see in a listing, you're going to get your base rent plus a percent of revenue, or a base rent plus CAM, or a base rent plus something. Okay. Percent of revenue is how much that you took in. So when I was in the Pierre Bourget Mall, my lease said that I had to pay my base rent plus a percentage of revenue. Well, being Kingstown Family Life Center, we did not have revenue. And so eventually I stopped having to report that. But for my first couple of months that I was there, they gave us a spreadsheet and you basically had to list out all of your different types of sales, how much you sold, and then you cut a check to the mall management for that percentage. Personally, I always wondered why they did it that way, because what's to say I'm not going to fudge and say I only sold 10 items this month instead of 100 items, you know what I mean? But that's how they did it. Base rent plus percent of revenue. Base rent plus CAM. CAM stands for common area maintenance. So if you've got a parking lot, you've got hallways, you've got lightings, you've got common bathrooms, all of that stuff has to be maintained by somebody. And in a residential environment, we kind of think of the landlord as doing that. But in a commercial environment, the landlord's passing that cost off to the tenant. All right. And so there's certain conventions for some of these things that are passed off. So for example, when you see net lease, that almost always means they are passing off the property taxes for your fair share of that property to you. So if you are one of 3 tenants in equally spaced retail strip mall, and you are the I'm sorry, the tax. I'm sorry, I'm doing it from the wrong way. So let's just say you have 3 tenants in your retail strip mall, and they all 3 have the same size unit, and the tax on that is $3,000. Well, their fair share, fair share is $1,000 a year to pay for their fair share of those property taxes. In a net lease, they know net lease means you're going to pay your fair share of the property taxes. Now, another one is called double net, and that's NN. You'll also see that written as net dash net. That, in that case, when you see that in the listing, you already know as a commercial tenant, or you are already telling your potential commercial tenants that you are going to expect the tenants to pay their portion of the property tax and the building insurance. Now, triple net lease, that's like the holy grail of commercial lease. That's what everybody says they want to do. And that is where you have the tenants pay their portion of the property taxes, their portion of the building's insurance, and their portion of the maintenance. And boy, that's been such a tough deal. When you're in a place that makes you pay for maintenance, but then they don't maintain it. Okay. So these are all the reasons that people like to invest in commercial, because you pass all those things off. So you don't always do that with residential, because the residential market may not bear it. All right. But one thing you've got to understand, is there is no consumer protection. And so sometimes you get in there and you find that a property isn't performing as well as you say, you know. Um, I'll tell you this story real quick. When we were first trying to go into commercial, we were in a church called Power of Deliverance. So our church was Cross of Calvary, but we were temporarily co-located with Power of Deliverance. And then we got our own building, and then they moved down south and they changed their name. But at the time when we were in Power of Deliverance, they were in Clinton, Maryland. And their building was for sale for $1 million. Well, we knew the tenants in that building. We knew what we were paying for rent. There were only like 3 units that were occupied. So me and my ex-husband, we set up a shell company, and we were going to buy this because the landlord was going to kick the church out, even though the church hadn't violated any terms of the lease, because a church is not, it doesn't fare well for calculating the value of your commercial property. So things like churches that don't generate revenue, they're not generally calculated as part of the value. So he wanted to get rid of the church, replace it with a retail unit, and then he could bump up the value of what he was trying to make, what he was trying to sell the property for. And so me and my ex-husband, we set out to buy this property. We start looking at the financials, and we're like, we know this guy's lying, because he's got 3 tenants. We're one of them, and we're certainly not paying that. And this guy's certainly not paying that, and that guy's certainly not paying that, right? Or gal, or whoever it was. And so you have to keep that in mind. Another thing that you have to keep in mind is that you can have a brand name anchor. So remember that other example that I showed you where they had the CVS, right? They had the CVS in their in their shopping center, that big name tenant is called the anchor. And that's the one that makes you that's the one that really kind of holds that property value, because you got a big name in there. You got a CVS, you got a Chili's, you got a Johnny's Pizza, something like that in there, and that really holds it. Well, that can be really, really good, sure, because it helps hold the value as far as the bankers and stuff are concerned. But boy, oh boy, oh boy, sometimes those brand names, they attract the tenants, and they let you charge the higher rent, but boy, they want to bleed you dry. They nickel and dime everything. They're gonna take down their what they want to pay, because they know that you having them in your storefront is going to make you more money by bringing in more tenants who want to be associated with a quality retailer. Okay, so you got to watch out for that. And when you're buying, you want to get the leases to really understand. And a lot of times, people don't even know what each other's leases are. Like, they don't even know. Now, when we were going to buy that one building, we knew the people, so we could go ask them, hey, what are you paying in rent? Okay, you may not always be able to do that, but you can do enough discussion and build a relationship with the folks of a property, with folks who are renting a property you're thinking about buying, that you can be able to kind of get the full picture. Okay, now, I did mention it about the church. I'm going to tell you right now, nonprofits and low profit organizations do not represent a good return on investment to the bank. And because they don't represent a good return on investment to the bank, they're not going to represent a good return on investment to the savvy investors. And because of that, it's going to be much harder for somebody who has that kind of property to be able to rent in a commercial space. Why am I telling you this? As I'm teaching you about possibly buying commercial property or building it if you want to. It's because you need to know that many of you that are in my audience, you have big hearts and you want to do big things, and you want to buy this commercial thing, and you want to rent out the other spaces, and you want to use it for your nonprofit. And that is great. That is wonderful. That is equipping God's people. That is doing what you've been called to do. And I'm super, super excited for that. I just don't want you to get blindsided later on when the bank's like, well, we're not going to give you enough money to finish buying this. Okay. Now, personally, I recommend trying to find a way to get it without taking on a loan. But I know a lot of you out there are going to go get a loan for what you want to do. You want to understand that, if you have a church in there, they're not considered good ROI. They're not considered, you got a nonprofit in there, they're not considered a good return on investment, because when the bank looks at that, that's dead space. That's not producing any income. It's not generating traffic. And look, before you tell me your church brings in 200 people a week into that shopping center, think about how many of those people do not spend their money in the shopping center. And even if they do go out to eat in that shopping center, think about how many of them don't tip. All right, I'm just saying. Okay, I'm being a little facetious here, but nonprofits, churches, things like that, if it's in your heart to put something like that in your property, just understand the impact. It brings the value of the property down. Am I still going to do it? Of course I am. It's what I do. In fact, when I was a realtor, for a while there, I was known as the church finder. Like, I would help your church find a building. We'd either find you a building, or we'd find you a storefront to rent until you could afford to buy a building. Like, that was my thing, right? And that's always going to be something that's near and dear to my heart. And when it comes to what I'm doing, most of what I build wealth so I can go do is nonprofit, right? Most of what the reason why I'm doing this is so I can change communities. It takes money to change communities. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying be aware of what you're doing, and understand the implications of it. Okay. So, one last point on that slide, I want to make sure that you understand. Expect Murphy to show up. Make sure you build Murphy into the budget. Build the devil into the budget. I'm not saying give him any space, any room, any accolades, or anything, but expect the things that can go wrong will go wrong, and make sure that you are not eking through bare bones budget, barely going to make this project through. You want to make sure you have a padding so that you can address things as they arise. And if you don't have a padding, make sure you have relationships with people who can step in and help you solve those problems. Trades who can step in and help you solve the plumbing and the electrical and all those other problems. Okay. All righty. We did talk about some ways to find a commercial property. Here are some ways that you can both find a property and do research. So, a CCIM is going to be your oh man, what does CCIM stand for? Oh, they're basically your commercial brokers. I forgot what it stands for. Certified commercial investment member. Okay, I know it's basically a realtor. It's the commercial version of realtors. Okay, it's the commercial broker version of realtors. CCIM. Certified commercial investment members. All right, there's ways that you can do more research, and there's a lot of research you can actually do online right from the comfort of your seat without even having to pay a whole lot. You can go look up things in zip codes, you can look up crime and other stats. I mean, it's all right there at your fingertips. I've got an example here. I am not going to have time to go through the examples, okay? Because we are way over, and I feel so bad for the people that are waiting for me to come set up at the or to come help with the bake sale. So I'm going to get going. But if you were interested in this, there's a detailed explanation of this in the wholesaling 101 because I go through these two in my example of wholesaling and driving for dollars. How do you do your research after? It's the same example, okay? So you can find that online. All right, let's see what else we've got here. All right, so I make two promises every time wow, that's a typo. I make two promises every time. One, that you can go out and start researching these things. You can go down there and do that. Now, this is written for foreclosure, but it also applies to wow, that's embarrassing. It also applies to commercial. Okay, so that's something that you can do. And again, you can take what I've taught you today, and you can go out and you can make this happen. All right. And if you want more details, if you want more of the juicy how to, you want to get into that portal. Let me pull it up. You want to get into that portal so you can start going through the classes that show you how to do it, and where I actually talk about the finding the properties, and where I actually talk about making the phone calls to the owners and how to research them. And I actually show you, I actually go and show you me clicking through. Hey, I drove past and saw this property, and here now I'm going into the thing, and I see it on Google, but I don't see it on, I don't see the official address. So now I'm going into the plats and I'm looking this up and looking that up. I'm showing you how to actually do all that. So you want to go get all that in the class there. Okay. All righty. Real quick. This is our Global Youth Initiative fundraiser. So please, 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 please make a donation. It's down there at the bottom. PayPal paypal.me/queen of cash flow, or Cash App Queen of Cash Flow. Make a donation of any size. It helps me help more children become confident kids and global leaders. Okay. All right. I think that's my last slide for today. I'm going to scan free conference call for questions. If you've got questions, put them in the chat real quick because I really need to go get to that bake sale. And if you came in late and you don't know what the bake sale's for, the bake sale is for, let me pull up that banner. That the bake sale is for Erath County veterans. And they, as you will know, they were the charity partner for my Building Wealth Together conference. They're doing their bake sale today. It's our last fundraiser of the year. If you can support them, support them. So I'm asking you to support a lot of things today. I'm asking you to support Global Youth Initiative. I'm asking you to support Erath County veterans. And you know what else I'm asking you to support? Let me tell you what else I'm asking you to support. I'm asking you to support you. See, it's one thing to sit through this, and some of y'all have sat through this thing for over 3 hours, and I appreciate you. But now it's time to take action. It's time to move forward and actually do something that is going to change your life. It's time to take those small, consistent daily steps in the direction of your dream. And then 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you'll be amazed. And sometimes we feel like, oh, I've got all these health issues. I got all these problems. I don't have 10 years. I don't have 20 years. But you've got right now. You've got right now. And you can do something right now. You can get out there and go drive for 30 minutes, or ask somebody to take you around driving for 30 minutes. Y'all can have some nice, sweet chit chat and fellowship and conversation. And you can look for properties, and you can come back to the house or to wherever you're living, and you can research them out. And then you can start contacting the owners and use that script that I gave you earlier and just see. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But with these commercial properties, it only takes one deal to change your life forever. I want to encourage you to get out there and do something today that your future self is going to be thankful for. I'm JJ Conway. Thank you so much for watching, or for those of you who are listening on free conference call, thank you for listening. Y'all take care and be blessed.